Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 81. Bai Qi's Void Realm Tribulation. Returning to the imperial palace, Qin Tian engaged in deep and shallow exchanges with Hu Mei and Zhang Suyu. Zhang Suyu nestled in Qin Tian's embrace, looking at his handsome profile and couldn't help but rub against his cheek. Qin Tian held Zhang Suyu's small hand and said, "Beloved consort. After more than 2 years of dual cultivation, you have already broken through to the Poshu realm. I have something I want you to do for me, is that alright?" Hearing this, Zhang Suyu raised her small face to look at Qin Tian and smiled. "It is this humble servant's honor to share your majesty's burden. Your majesty, please feel free to command." Qin Tian pinched Zhang Suyu's small face and said with a smile, "I have a spiritual field in my possession. From now on, they will be managed by you. Really? Your subject thanks your majesty." Zhang Suyu had been by Qin Tian's side for more than 2 years. During this time, she had intensely studied cultivation knowledge, and she was quite familiar with the effects of the spiritual wood divine body. Qin Tian assigning her to manage the spiritual field was undoubtedly a sign of trust in her. Zhang Suyu felt very happy that she could help Qin Tian. She came from a brothel, and because of her background, she always felt that she was a step lower than Qin Tian's other women. Thinking of this, Zhang Suyu was overjoyed. Qin Tian playfully scraped Zhang Suyu's delicate nose and smiled, "Of course it's true. Tomorrow, I will select a few experts from the brocade guard to be responsible for your safety." Zhang Suyu immediately wrapped her arms around Qin Tian's neck and said with a smile, "Then this humble servant thanks your majesty." A trace of disappointment flickered in Hu Mei's eyes beside them. Zhang Suyu and she were the only 2 noble consorts in the harem. Now that Zhang Suyu was assigned to manage the spiritual field, didn't that mean she would be a step lower than Zhang Suyu from now on? Thus, Hu Mei appeared somewhat disappointed at this moment. Qin Tian saw Hu Mei's crestfallen expression and quickly wrapped his arm around her slender waist, saying, "Beloved consort, from now on, you will manage the finances of the imperial palace." Hu Mei's eyes lit up upon hearing this. One must know that only the empress had the right to manage the finances of the imperial palace. Previously, Cao Zhengchun had been responsible for this matter. Although Hu Mei also understood that it was impossible for her to sit on the position of empress because she was a beastman, if Qin Tian made her empress, then those generals and ministers would definitely be the first to object. And when Qin Tian took Zhang Suyu as a noble consort back then, Fang Xuanling strongly opposed it. If Qin Tian hadn't forcefully declared that his family affairs were not for court officials to interfere with, then Zhang Suyu might not have been able to enter the palace until now. Hu Mei looked at Qin Tian with teary eyes and said, "This humble servant thanks your majesty." Qin Tian knew deeply the principle of treating everyone equally if he wanted the imperial palace to be in order. Therefore, Qin Tian had not established an empress until now, and he didn't want to establish one. Although Qin Tian was not a good person, as a man, not letting his women suffer grievances was the most basic point. Qin Tian looked at the 2 women in his arms, who were like kittens, and immediately transformed into a fierce tiger, pouncing on them. Just as Qin Tian was turning the clouds and rain in the imperial palace, there was finally movement around Bai Qi, who had been sitting cross-legged in front of Juyin Mountain for several days. With a muffled rumble, a bloody killing aura erupted from Bai Qi, who had been sitting cross-legged in front of Juyin Mountain. Looking at the killing aura approaching him, Guan Yu's pupils began to contract violently. Guan Yu looked at the killing aura that was gradually spreading before him, and a feeling of extreme danger immediately arose in his heart, so he quickly shouted, "Retreat." The several generals who sensed the killing aura almost simultaneously commanded their armies to retreat from the area covered by the killing aura. Bai Qi's killing aura covered a radius of over 60 li. Wherever the killing aura passed, grass and trees turned into dust, and the piles of orc corpses that had been like mountains on the ground instantly turned into piles of white bones. Gao Shun looked at the terrifying killing aura before him and couldn't help but swallow. If one was tainted by the killing aura, it would definitely be very troublesome, and martial artists below the Di Yuan realm would probably turn into white bones in an instant if they were even slightly touched by it. Lu Bu looked at the sky-filling killing aura and shook his head, saying, "Tisk tisk. This General Bai is truly abnormal. He reached the void realm so easily. How great it would be if I also had this ability." This breakthrough is like drinking water. Tisk tisk, envious. Zhao Yun looked at Lu Biyu and smiled. Want to know how to have the same ability as General Bai? Lu Biyu looked at Zhao Yun, puzzled. How do you mean? It's simple. Wash up and go to sleep. The other martial generals couldn't help but burst into laughter upon hearing this, leaving Lu Biyu standing there with a face full of black lines. ... As time passed, a month quickly went by. Just as the several martial generals were bored out of their minds, suddenly, time seemed to stand still. Rumble. A loud noise broke the stillness of time. The martial generals who had reacted all looked up at the sky. The bloody killing aura that had spread for dozens of li was now rapidly converging towards the center, revealing the white bones on the ground. Li Kunshao looked at Bai Qi in the sky and muttered, has he finally succeeded? As the killing aura completely retreated into Bai Qi's body, the heavenly tribulation in the sky began to condense. Looking at the gradually expanding heavenly tribulation, Guan Yu shouted, not good. Quick, retreat. Following Bai Qi's command, everyone led their teams to retreat from the range of the heavenly tribulation. Looking at the heavenly tribulation extending over 100 li, Guan Yu's heart couldn't help but tremble, because the energy contained within the heavenly tribulation at this moment was already enough to destroy heaven and earth. Normally, their heavenly tribulation clouds only covered a few dozen li, but now Bai Qi's heavenly tribulation had exceeded 100 li. Bai Qi, in the center of the heavenly tribulation, opened his eyes. Then, Bai Qi slowly stood up, clenched his fists, and murmured, is this the void realm? At the same time, in the Tianchuan auction house in Shi Liang City, Lu Bo's body suddenly stiffened, and then he muttered, such a grand display. Who on earth is this? Saying this, Lu Bo had just lifted his foot but pulled it back. His originally straight body became hunched again. Lu Bo looked towards Juyin Mountain and shook his head with a smile, saying, oh dear. It seems a remarkable figure is about to emerge. I'm truly old. Rumble. The heavenly tribulation in the sky had finished brewing. The purplish-red heavenly tribulation in the sky was constantly rolling. The heavenly tribulation fell on Bai Qi like raindrops, while Bai Qi sat cross-legged under the thunderclouds, closing his eyes to rest, completely unmoved. Lu Biyu crossed his arms and looked at Bai Qi, saying, why do I feel like this heavenly tribulation is just scratching General Bai's itch? With this intensity, I could go up and endure it. Is the void realm heavenly tribulation that childish? Gao Shun couldn't help but look at Lu Biyu with a face full of black lines upon hearing this. Good heavens. This life-threatening thing is childish in your eyes. Guan Yu heard this and said in a deep voice, it won't be that simple. Let's just watch. In the blink of an eye, 15 minutes passed. Bai Qi opened his eyes and said, all right. Stop sending down these childish heavenly tribulations. Let's get to the main course. The heavenly tribulation seemed to have truly understood Bai Qi's words, as the heavenly tribulation that had been falling like raindrops in the sky actually stopped. Chapter 82 Thunder Beast appears. Bai Qi looked at the constantly rolling thunderclouds in the sky, his expression becoming solemn, while the other generals were startled by the continuously churning thunderclouds. Quick! Retreat! As the several martial generals shouted in unison, the more than 1 million strong army retreated in unison. The thunderclouds in the sky also expanded non-stop at this moment. Half an hour later, the thunderclouds stopped expanding. Looking at the 200-mile-wide thunderclouds, even someone as strong as Li Kunshao couldn't help but swallow with difficulty. Bai Qi looked at the rapidly expanding thunderclouds, a smile playing on the corner of his mouth. He laughed, finally, something interesting has arrived. Then, let me have a good match with you. After Bai Qi finished speaking, he spread his hands, and a 50-mile-wide slaughter domain quickly opened up. The blood-red slaughter domain in the dark, oppressive thunderclouds in the sky created a strong visual impact. Shu Chu looked at Bai Qi, who was holding a black spear, and laughed excitedly, old Bai is awesome. Upon hearing this, Dian Wei unconsciously moved away from Shu Chu. As Bai Qi's domain expanded, the heavenly tribulation in the sky rolled even more intensely. What is that? Following Dian Wei's loud shout, the generals all looked towards the thunderclouds. They saw a giant beast claw, condensed from lightning, extending out of the thunderclouds. Seeing this, Lu Biyu couldn't help but swallow, his eyes immediately filled with fighting spirit. The other generals also clenched their fists upon seeing this. At this moment, they all wanted to replace Bai Qi and spar with the thunder beasts condensed from the heavenly tribulation. As the thunder beasts poked their heads out of the thunderclouds, everyone finally saw their true appearance. This was a Kylin condensed from the heavenly tribulation. Looking at the giant thunder Kylin, the martial generals immediately shivered. This was because the aura emanating from this thunder Kylin had already surpassed the void realm and reached the half-step martial god stage. Bai Qi licked his dry lips and sneered, "This is a tough one." Immediately, Bai Qi unleashed his full power, and 10 god-slaying locks whipped wildly behind him. "Come on!" Bai Qi roared and charged towards the thunder Kylin. The thunder Kylin, condensed from the heavenly tribulation, also roared and charged towards Bai Qi. Bai Qi looked at the approaching thunder Kylin, and a hell Asura Dharma idol condensed behind him. Bai Qi raised the spear in his hand and swept it horizontally, roaring, "Slaughter all living beings." The spear in the hand of the hell Asura behind Bai Qi directly stabbed towards the thunder beasts. Seeing this, the thunder beasts roared and crossed their front claws, smashing fiercely towards the hell Asura. Boom! With a loud bang, Bai Qi's figure pierced through several high mountains and finally crashed into the ground. Even the slaughter domain behind Bai Qi was shattered. Just upon contact, Bai Qi fell into a disadvantage. Although the thunder Kylin was suppressed by Bai Qi's innate skill, limiting its strength by 30%, a half-god was still a half-god. Bai Qi, with only the early-stage void realm cultivation, was still too far behind a half-god. The generals watching from afar saw Bai Qi being smashed into the ground, and their hearts immediately tightened. They didn't expect that Bai Qi would be smashed into the ground after just one exchange. Cough, cough. At this moment, Bai Qi's coughing sound came from underground, which immediately relieved the generals who were previously worried. Bai Qi stepped into the void and stood in front of the thunder beasts, saying, "I underestimated you. Next, I'm going to be serious." Asura descends. Following Bai Qi's roar, Bai Qi immediately transformed into 100 jong tall, crimson hell Asura. At this moment, Bai Qi and the thunder beasts in front of him were roughly the same height. The martial generals watching this scene from afar looked at it with yearning eyes. This was the true body condensed by those with special physiques after breaking through to the void realm. The stronger the physique, the higher the combat power. Come on. Let's fight to our heart's content. Bai Qi roared and attacked the thunder beasts. The two sides quickly got tangled up. The hell Asura body condensed by Bai Qi was incomparably strong, so he was not at all at a disadvantage in close combat with the thunder beasts at this time. Just like that, the two sides exchanged punches and claws, fighting back and forth. The generals watching from afar were engrossed in the fight. Shu Chu looked at Bai Qi, who had transformed into a hell Asura, and shouted excitedly, "That's right. Just like that. Beat him up." After dodging a horizontal sweep from the thunder beasts, Bai Qi fiercely slapped the thunder beast's abdomen. After receiving this heavy blow, the thunder beasts flew backward towards the ground. After being heavily hit, the lightning on the thunder beasts seemed somewhat scattered. Seeing this, Bai Qi thought the heavenly tribulation was about to end. After all, maintaining this Asura state was really exhausting to fight. However, the next scene left Bai Qi completely dumbfounded. He saw that after a few bolts of heavenly tribulation struck down, the thunder beasts recovered as before. Seeing this scene in front of him, Bai Qi couldn't help but curse inwardly. He knew that maintaining this state was very strenuous. After fighting for so long, the opponent recovered after being struck by lightning a few times. Anyone would curse when faced with this. Bai Qi looked at the thunder beasts and said angrily, "I don't believe it. You can't recover indefinitely." Asura 100 claws. Following Bai Qi's roar, 100 crimson Asura claws attacked the thunder beasts. Seeing this, the thunder beasts also roared, raised their front claws, and unleashed 2 claw rays towards Bai Qi. As the two attacks collided, they caused a violent explosion. The shockwave caused by the explosion quickly leveled the mountains within a radius of several dozen miles. The generals watching from afar saw the violent shockwave approaching and immediately knew something was wrong. They quickly erected a defense to block the incoming shockwave. The entire army retreats 100 miles. Following Guan Yu's command, the Ziliang army began to frantically retreat. After all, with their low strength, even watching from afar would be life-threatening. As the light dissipated, Bai Qi's figure once again collided with the thunder beasts. The two sides began to engage in close combat, trading blows. The attacks of both sides caused bursts of sonic booms. The battle between the two sides continued for half an hour. During this half hour, Bai Qi had already fallen into a frenzy. Even the few people watching from the side could barely see their exchanges because the speed was too fast. During this half hour, the thunder beasts were dispersed 3 times, but each time they were restored by the energy in the thunderclouds. Just as both sides were fiercely battling, Bai Qi found an opportunity and pierced through the thunder beast's body with a claw, shattering it. Bai Qi's Asura body was already covered in claw marks at this time. Even a body as strong as the Hell Asura was scratched by the thunder beasts with over 100 shocking claw marks, showing how strong the thunder beast's combat power was. Bai Qi looked at the gradually dissipating thunder beasts and could no longer hold on. He turned back into his human form and fainted. In fact, Bai Qi had already fainted during the battle just now. It was his will that had been fighting the thunder beasts all along. As the heavenly tribulation in the sky dissipated, a ray of colorful light descended from the sky, enveloping Bai Qi. Endless heaven and earth energy continuously washed over Bai Qi's body. The wounds on Bai Qi's body healed at a visible rate. Chapter 83 Banquet Tuition. As the white light dispersed, Bai Qi slowly stood up and clenched his fists, then with a push of his hands, a massive spatial wormhole 100 meters wide appeared before him. Everyone looked towards the wormhole and found that the other end was connected to the great Tang imperial capital. Bai Qi looked at the stunned martial generals and said coldly, "What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and lead the troops in." Liu Bu and the others, who had reacted, quickly assembled their troops and walked towards the wormhole. Half an hour later, over 2 million troops finally assembled in front of the imperial city, and Qin Tian, who had received the news long ago, had already been waiting there for a long time. Qin Tian looked at the imposing Bai Qi and smiled. "Bai Qi, I must congratulate you on your promotion to the Void Realm. With your promotion to the Void Realm, our great Tang can be considered to have a foothold on this continent." Bai Qi heard this, cupped his fists and bowed, saying, "Thank you, Your Majesty. Your subject was able to be promoted to the Void Realm thanks to the strength of Your Majesty and my colleagues." Qin Tian heard this and laughed heartily, "Ha ha ha. There's no need for us, the monarch and your subject, to talk about such things. Come, enter the city. Pao Ding has already prepared the Qingzhou wine. Aren't you usually craving his Qingzhou wine? This time, Your Majesty spent 8 million mid-grade spiritual stones to have Pao Ding brew 1,000 caddies. Today, Your Majesty will let you drink your fill." Shu Chu heard this and immediately jumped out, saying, "Your Majesty, do we have a share?" Qin Tian looked at them and smiled, "Yes. Everyone does." Guan Yu and the others' eyes lit up when they heard this, saying, "Your subjects thank Your Majesty for your grace." Qin Tian looked at Zhang Heng, who was standing silently to the side, and smiled. "Zhang Heng, you come along too." Zhang Heng was slightly stunned when he heard this, then was overjoyed, saying, "Your subject. Thanks to Your Majesty." Although Zhang Heng was now ranked as a national duke, the same as several peerless martial generals, he would respectfully salute whenever he saw them. He knew that they were all Qin Tian's absolute confidants, and his position as national duke was nothing in front of them, because the difference in their strength was too great. Moreover, although the Black Dragon army had a large number of people, even under the premise of equal strength, they still couldn't defeat the several elite units in Qin Tian's hands. However, now that Qin Tian had actually called him along, it meant that in Qin Tian's eyes, he also had some weight. This time, Qin Tian held the banquet in the Xuan Hall, and almost all of Qin Tian's confidants were present. The civil and martial officials present had no titles lower than National Duke. Qin Tian sat in the main seat, looked at the martial generals below, raised his wine cup, and said, "Generals. This time, our great Tang has achieved a great victory over the 4 major beastmen tribes. Here, Your Majesty toasts all the generals with this wine." After saying that, Qin Tian drained his cup. Seeing this, the generals also drained the wine in their cups. Qin Tian looked at the subordinate generals below and said, "In this great battle, Meng Tian fought against 30 million beastmen troops alone. He deserves the foremost credit. Meng Tian, step forward and receive your title." Meng Tian heard this, stepped forward, knelt on both knees, and bowed to Qin Tian. Qin Tian looked at Meng Tian below and said, "Title. Meng Tian is the Zhenan Grand Marshal. Command. The troops of Tong Province, Jing Province, Yun Province, Yang Province, Yang Province, and Yang Prefecture. Meng Tian heard this and kowtowed in thanks, your subject. Thanks to your majesty for your grace. Bai Qi, step forward and receive your title. Title. Bai Qi is the Grand Marshal. Command the troops of the entire country. You can bypass the military department directly and do not need your majesty's decree. You can mobilize all troops within the Great Tang. Bai Qi was slightly stunned when he heard this, then kowtowed to Qin Tian again, saying, Your Majesty. Your subject is unworthy. Please, Your Majesty. Bai Qi understood that Qin Tian was entrusting the entire country's army to him, but this was not what he wanted, because he had already experienced it once, so his heart was extremely apprehensive at this moment. Qin Tian also knew Bai Qi's concerns and interrupted, saying, Bai Qi. Your Majesty knows your concerns. Don't worry. Your Majesty does not doubt those he uses, and uses those he does not doubt. Just accept it. Your Majesty. Your subject is apprehensive. Qin Tian heard this and frowned slightly, saying, Bai Qi. Your Majesty ordered you to be the Grand Marshal because Your Majesty wants you to train the Great Tang Army for Your Majesty. It's not asking you to form factions. Do you intend to defy the decree? Bai Qi heard this, opened his mouth, and then sighed, Your subject accepts the decree. Qin Tian watched Bai Qi accept the appointment, and his brow finally relaxed. In fact, Bai Qi was truly skilled in training troops. The Ziliang army had successfully formed military formations under Bai Qi's guidance. If Bai Qi could train the armies from all over the country to form military formations, then the Great Tang would surely be invincible on this Tianshuan continent in the near future. Moreover, Bai Qi's position as Grand Marshal did not conflict with the military department, because the military department was in charge of logistics and military registration, so the two did not conflict. Zhuge Liang saw that the atmosphere of the banquet was slightly off, so he winked at Pao Ding. Pao Ding understood and stepped forward, cupped his fists, and said, reporting to Your Majesty. Your subject recently concocted a pot of 8th grade spiritual wine. Please, Your Majesty, sample it. Pao Ding's words instantly broke the stalemate. The civil and martial officials present almost all swallowed their saliva. Qin Tian heard this, and his somewhat depressed mood was also relieved. He looked at Pao Ding and smiled, then why don't you quickly present it so that Your Majesty and all the ministers can sample it? Yes. After bowing slightly, Pao Ding clapped his hands, and then a group of palace maids carried the wine into the hall. As Pao Ding poured out the wine, a wisp of light smoke drifted out, and the aroma of the wine instantly filled the entire hall. The marshal generals smelled this wine and instantly felt that the Qingzhou wine in front of them was no longer fragrant. Qin Tian just slightly smelled the aroma of this spiritual wine and felt as if his soul had been cleansed. Seeing this, Pao Ding stepped forward, cupped his fists, and said, Your Majesty. This wine is called Jade Soul Dew. It is brewed from soul-nurturing flowers and has the effect of cleansing the soul. Martial artists only need to drink one catty to permanently increase their soul power by 30% below the martial god realm. The spiritual wine will continue to increase the martial artist's soul power over the next 3 days. Qin Tian was also stunned when he heard this. One should know that things that can increase soul power are extremely precious. If alchemists, array formation masters, and others from the 4 major professions on the continent knew about it, they would definitely buy it with heavy money. Because soul power is extremely difficult to increase, and every increase in a martial artist's soul power is achieved through strength advancement, and the benefits of strong soul power are almost countless. Taking martial artists as an example, strong soul power often makes it easier to improve strength, and the perception of danger during combat is also more acute. Therefore, this Jade Soul Dew is a priceless treasure for martial artists on the Tianshuan continent. Qin Tian raised his wine cup and drained it. As the wine flowed down his throat into his stomach, Qin Tian instantly felt his mind clear, and a gentle soul power was constantly washing over his soul power. Qin Tian opened his eyes and laughed heartily, ha ha ha. Good wine. Come, generals, drink with Your Majesty. Following Qin Tian's order, the generals who could no longer hold back picked up the Jade Soul Dew in front of them and drained it. After drinking a cup, Shu Chu looked at a graceful palace maid and said, Your Majesty. Is there any more? Shu Chu's anxious appearance made the ministers burst into laughter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 84 Pegasus Envoy. 3 days later, a brocade guard rushed to Qin Tian's front. Your Majesty. Xiaoyao Wang has returned to Kyoto. He is requesting an audience outside the gate. Qin Tian waved away the few maids who were massaging his legs and said, announce him. Yes. Not long after, Shen Wanson came before Qin Tian, cupped his fists, and said, Shen Wanson pays respects to your Majesty. Qin Tian stretched and said, rise. Someone grant a seat. After speaking, a little eunuch carried a reclining chair and placed it next to Qin Tian. Sit. Upon hearing this, Shen Wanson bowed and said, your subject. Thanks your Majesty for granting a seat. All right. Don't be so formal between us, isn't it tiring? Seeing Qin Tian's impatient look, Shen Wanson knew that with Qin Tian's personality, he strongly disliked such formalities. However, since it wasn't a formal occasion, Shen Wanson didn't insist on too many formalities and sat directly beside Qin Tian. Qin Tian looked at Shen Wanson sitting beside him and said, Wanson, tell me about your gains from the orcs this time. Upon hearing this, Shen Wanson smiled and said, Your Majesty. This time, your subject has reached trade agreements with a total of 9 orc duchies. If it weren't for the fear of doing too much and facing backlash from the 3 great empires, your subject would have definitely included more than half of the orc duchies on the list this time. Although we now have teleportation formations, trading is much more discreet than before, but we don't know if the 3 great empires have any means of detection, so your subject restrained himself a bit. Qin Tian looked at Shen Wanson and smiled. You did the right thing. Business should be done step by step. Taking too big a step makes it easy to pull a muscle. Our great Tang has just gained some footing. What we lack most now is time to grow. Give us another 10 years, and the great Tang will grow strong. The meat from the 9 duchies is enough for us for now. Also, regarding the orcs, requests for earth rank and above weapons, we must be careful to restrict them. Otherwise, if we truly touch upon the core interests of the 3 great empires, they will go crazy. Yes. Your subject understands. Has your trading center started operating? Upon hearing this, Shen Wanson nodded and said, reporting to your Majesty. It has been completed. Just yesterday, we received orders for over 3 million yellow-grade weapons, 100,000 Zon-grade weapons, and 35 Earth-rank weapons. Qin Tian nodded upon hearing this and said, let's fulfill their purchase orders this time. Next time, we will restrict exports. Following this, Qin Tian handed over another list and said, right. This is the list from the Great Tang Science Academy. Have them trade for the ores listed on this list. After taking the list, Shen Wanson glanced at it and said, yes. Your subject will inform them shortly. Also, Your Majesty. These are the results of our trade this time. Please take a look. Qin Tian took the ores handed over by Shen Wanson, scanned them with his divine sense, and found that the storage ring contained ores for refining Zon-grade and yellow-grade weapons. However, Qin Tian also understood. After all, the orcs weren't foolish. They also restricted the export of ores for refining Earth-rank weapons, which directly increased the value of ores that could refine Earth-rank and above weapons several times over. After glancing at them, Qin Tian said, understood. Send them all to the Great Tang Science Academy. They should be in great need of this batch of ores. Upon hearing this, Shen Wanson cupped his fists and said, yes. Just as Qin Tian and Shen Wanson were discussing, Cao Zhengchun appeared beside Qin Tian and said, Your Majesty. The special envoy from the Tianma dynasty has arrived. Qin Tian was slightly taken aback upon hearing this. The Tianma dynasty sends envoys to various dynasties every 3 years to collect tribute. Because the Tianquan continent is too vast, and there are numerous dynasties, the dynasty's envoys only collect tribute once every 3 years. Qin Tian had been in power for over 2 years, and this was the first time he had encountered the matter of paying tribute. He was just about to refuse, but on second thought, now was not the time for rash decisions. The Great Tang needed time to develop, and clashing with the Tianma dynasty at this point was not good. Just as Qin Tian was struggling with various thoughts, a eunuch ran to Qin Tian's front, knelt down, and said, Your Majesty. Lord Lu, Lord Fang, and Lord Zug request an audience. Qin Tian was surprised upon hearing this and immediately said, Oh. Their noses are quite sharp, announce them. Yes. Seeing this, Shen Wanson quickly cupped his fists and said, Your Majesty. Your subject will take his leave first. Qin Tian heard this and said, You stay here too. Stay here and accompany your Majesty. Yes. Not long after, Zhuge Liang and others appeared before Qin Tian. Qin Tian looked at the three and said, You have all received the news, right? Tell your Majesty what should be done. Fang Xuanling stepped forward and said, Your Majesty. From the perspective of national development, our great Tang is not suitable to have a conflict with the Tianma dynasty at this stage. Furthermore, the tribute is ranked according to the dynasty's standing, so your subject believes that this time we should first hand over the tribute in full to the special envoy of the Tianma dynasty. What our great Tang needs at this stage is time, so paying some tribute to the Tianma dynasty is harmless. Zhuge Liang and Lu Bowen stepped forward upon hearing this, cupped their fists, and said, Your subject seconds the motion. Qin Tian nodded upon hearing this and said, Good. Do as Xuanling said. One of you three can go and send him away. Also, satisfy his demands as much as possible. Your subject obeys your Majesty's decree. Watching the three retreat, Qin Tian turned his head and said to Cao Zhengchun, Go. Tell Zhang Han. This time, I want the heads of the Tianma dynasty envoys. The more, the better. Tell Zhang Han. Be clean about it. As for this great Tang envoy, wait until he leaves the great Tang before killing him. Cao Zhengchun was slightly taken aback upon hearing this, then cupped his fists and said, Yes. This humble servant will go and do it now. At this moment, the Tianma dynasty envoy, Ma Baoguo, who was outside Kyoto, felt a surge of anger looking at the towering city walls. After all, when the Tianma dynasty envoy arrived at any dynasty, didn't the emperor always personally receive them? However, the Tianma dynasty envoy didn't dare to get angry now because he was currently being watched by Xu Chu and Dian Wei. Although Ma Baoguo's cultivation had reached the peak of the Danyuan realm, he still didn't dare to act presumptuously in front of Xu Chu and Dian Wei. Because the aura on Dian Wei and Xu Chu at this moment was too fierce, Ma Baoguo felt no different from an ant in front of the two of them. However, as an envoy of the Tianma dynasty, he also possessed a sense of arrogance. Although he was not a match for Xu Chu and Dian Wei, he did not lose out in terms of aura. Ma Baoguo looked at Xu Chu and Dian Wei and shouted, Barbarians! Why aren't you letting me in quickly? I am the Tianma envoy. Why aren't you quickly having your emperor come out to greet me? Xu Chu and Dian Wei immediately became enraged upon hearing this. Damn it! What is this little brat saying? I'll tear him apart. When Dian Wei became angry, his killing intent immediately surged forth. Seeing the Sha Qi evil energy emanating from Dian Wei, Ma Baoguo swallowed. However, as the 250th generation successor of the Hunyuan Taiji sect, he still endured the urge to kneel and stood firmly in place. Chapter 85 Master Ma enters the city. Just as Master Ma was about to give up, Zhuge Liang's voice came over, and Master Ma immediately felt a wave of relief throughout his body. As the pressure dissipated, Master Ma directly collapsed onto the ground. Zhuge Liang looked at Master Ma, who was sitting on the ground, stepped forward, cupped his fists, and said, Zhuge Liang, chief advisor of the military department of the Great Tang Dynasty, greets the ambassador. Master Ma, hearing this, stood up angrily and pointed at Zhuge Liang, shouting, Is this how your Great Tang welcomes an envoy from a superior country? I am an envoy from the Tianma dynasty. Those two martial generals actually dared to insult me. Does your Great Tang Dynasty no longer care about the Tianma Dynasty? Since that is the case, then I will return to the Tianma Dynasty and report to your Majesty, saying that your Great Tang Dynasty harbors rebellious intentions. The dynasties on the Tianshuan continent were like leaks for each dynasty. Dynasties ranked lower, like the Tianma Dynasty, controlled dozens of dynasties, and each time they collected tribute, they could receive hundreds of millions of low-grade spirit stones. For example, the Great Tang Dynasty had to pay 360,000 low-grade spirit stones to the Tianma Dynasty every year, and paying every 3 years meant 1 million low-grade spirit stones, and this did not include other treasures. You should know that the two low-grade spiritual veins originally controlled by the Great Tang imperial family only produced a little over 2 million low-grade spirit stones annually. The annual tribute accounted for 1/6 of the total output, which was set to prevent powerful countries from oppressing weaker countries. Otherwise, this Tianchuan continent would have long been the world of the three great empires. You should know that territory and population are related to the prosperity of a country's destiny, and the prosperity of a country's destiny is of paramount importance to the imperial family. As for why weak countries like Great Tang are commonly found on the borders of various races, the reason lies in the need for a buffer zone between the great empires. Powerful dynasties do not look down on this barren land, and after the size of the country increases, the tribute they have to pay each year will increase several times on the original basis. Moreover, after that, they will have to face unlimited harassment from beastmen and sea demons, so many forces need some weak countries to exist. If the Orc had a duchy stationed on the border of Great Tang, then the Tianma dynasty would definitely not just stand by and watch, they would definitely personally intervene. Therefore, it is rare for a country or tribe to be destroyed between the major races, while a dynasty is very much in favor of wars of annihilation between dynasties. Because as long as a large dynasty appears under their command, the tribute they receive will show a phenomenon of 1 plus 1 being greater than 2. Therefore, each dynasty has great control over the dynasties under its command, and if any dynasty dares to rebel, the people of the dynasty do not mind establishing another imperial family. Zhuge Liang looked at Master Ma, who was making a big deal out of it, cupped his fists and said, "Not at all. Not at all. We in Great Tang have always held the Tianma dynasty in high regard, and we will punish these two rascals later." After Zhuge Liang finished speaking, he stuffed a storage ring into Master Ma's hand and said with a smile, "Ambassador. This is a small token of my appreciation, please accept it." After Master Ma took the storage ring and scanned it with his divine sense, the corner of his mouth slightly lifted, saying, "You are quite sensible. Take me into the city. This matter is considered over. If there is a next time, I will definitely report it to Your Majesty." "Certainly. Come, Ambassador. Please come in." Master Ma snorted coldly when he heard this, glared at Shu Chu and Dian Wei, and then walked in. Master Ma was not a fool. Zhuge Liang and the other two were all martial artists of the Diyuan realm. If they really got into a fight, he wouldn't be able to do anything to them. Moreover, what Zhuge Liang gave was simply too much, a full 100,000 mid-grade spiritual stone, which was almost all of Master Ma's possessions. So Master Ma was in a particularly happy mood at this time. An adult's face is not as real as money. If someone were slapped and given 100,000, most people would definitely offer their right cheek after being slapped on the left. Shu Chu looked at the smug Master Ma and almost couldn't resist going up and splitting him with the twin halberds in his hand, but Dian Wei stopped him. "Dian Wei, don't stop me. I'm going to split him. Zongkang. Don't bother with a dead man." Shu Chu was stunned for a moment when he heard this, then turned his head to look at Dian Wei and said, "What do you mean?" Dian Wei looked at Master Ma's departing back, the corner of his mouth slightly raised, and said, "When have you ever seen His Majesty suffer a loss? I've been with His Majesty longer than you. From what I understand of His Majesty's character, at least half of the envoys sent by the Tianma dynasty this time are absolutely going to die. So this person won't live long, the Shadow Guard are not useless." After Zhuge Liang brought Master Ma back to the post station, Lu Bowen and others had already set up a banquet and were waiting. Lu Bowen looked at Master Ma and said with a smile, "Your subject Lu Bowen greets the ambassador. Your subject Fang Xuanling greets the ambassador." Master Ma heard this and looked closely, and found that wow. There were 3 Diyuan realm martial artists here alone. The spiritual energy in Great Tang had surged, and even compared to the Tianma dynasty, it was not inferior. Moreover, after Master Ma entered the imperial city, he found that the spiritual energy concentration in the Great Tang imperial capital was even higher than that of the Tianma dynasty. It seemed that Great Tang had gained a considerable opportunity recently. However, what Master Ma cared about most was that there was no news about this aspect from the outside world, which showed that Great Tang still controlled an extremely powerful force. Master Ma looked at the several Diyuan realm martial artists bowing to him and felt secretly pleased. This was also one of the reasons why he was willing to come out and collect tribute. Master Ma heard this and said with a smile, "Everyone, there is no need to be so polite. I am Master Ma from the Hunyuan Tai Chi Gate. This time, I have been ordered by His Majesty of the Tianma dynasty to come and collect tribute, and I hope you will all take good care of me." Now the situation was stronger than the person. He had been to Great Tang a few times before, but now Great Tang had undergone earth-shattering changes. Before, the Grandmaster realm was the face of Great Tang's combat power, but now the Yuan realm martial artists are everywhere. Therefore, at this time, Master Ma also changed his attitude. If the Great Tang Emperor had not come out to welcome him before, he would have definitely exploded in anger. However, the situation had changed. Great Tang had annihilated 2 countries, and its national strength had surged, so Master Ma also put away his contempt. Zhuge Liang looked at the few people who were feigning politeness and said with a smile, "Everyone, please take your seats. Ambassador Ma. Please. Everyone. Please." After Master Ma took his seat, he looked at the delicious food and wine on the table that were emitting spiritual energy and couldn't help but start eating. After a few cups of horse urine went down, Master Ma's face was slightly flushed. The wine served by Great Tang this time was third-grade spiritual wine, a type of wine specially supplied to elite troops in the army. Ordinary troops could only drink it if they were officers of the 5th rank or above. Officers and soldiers below the 5th rank could only receive a fixed amount of 1st or 2nd grade spiritual wine each month, and if they wanted to drink at other times, they had to pay for it themselves. Moreover, the elite army now basically ate spiritual food as well. Chapter 86 Zhongshan vs. Ma Baoguo. Zhuge Liang looked at the slightly drunk Ma Baoguo and said, "Ambassador Ma. May I know how much tribute our Great Tang needs to pay this time?" Hearing this, Ma Baoguo sat up straight and looked at Zhuge Liang, saying, "Your Great Tang destroyed 2 dynasties, so accordingly, starting from this year, you must pay 3 times the total tribute of the original 3 kingdoms. This is the rule. Therefore, your Great Tang must pay 2.8 million mid-grade spiritual stones this year. If you perform well, I can understand your difficulties and grant you a suitable reduction." Upon hearing this, Zhuge Liang and the others' mouths twitched. If it weren't for the Great Tang needing time to develop, they would have already slapped this Ma Baoguo to death. Lu Bowen handed a storage ring to Ma Baoguo. Seeing this, Ma Baoguo received the storage ring into his hand and said with a smile, "Very good. In my opinion, your Great Tang has gone through several great battles, so I believe you don't have many spiritual stones now. How about this? I'll make the decision. I'll reduce your tribute by 500,000. Hearing this, Zhuge Liang and the others cupped their fists and said, "Then we thank Ambassador Ma." "Not at all. Not at all. Ambassador Ma. This is the tribute our Great Tang is paying this year. Please count it." Ma Baogu received the storage ring handed over by Fang Xuanling, swept his spiritual sense inside, nodded, and said, The amount is correct. This time, your Great Tang did very well. I will definitely speak well of the Great Tang before His Majesty. Then we thank Ambassador Ma very much." Hearing this, Ma Baoguo raised his hand to stop them and said, "I like people to call me Master Ma." Zhuge Liang and the others were first stunned upon hearing this, and then cupped their fists and said, "Then we trouble Master Ma." Ma Baoguo felt a surge of comfort in his heart watching the 3 people bowing to him. Looking at the fine wine on the table, Ma Baoguo said with a smile, "This wine is good." Hearing this, Fang Xuanling immediately stepped forward and said, "Master Ma. This is 10 caddies of fine wine, please accept it." Ma Baogu looked at Fang Xuanling, nodded, and said, "Thank you for Lord Fang's kindness. Then I shall take my leave first. Take care." Ma Baoguo looked at the few people, then summoned his flying boat and flew towards the outside of the city. Zhuge Liang and the others couldn't help but exchange smiles as they watched the departing flying boat. Everyone present was shrewd. They had long since figured out Qin Tian's nature. Even without saying it, they knew this Ma Baoguo would definitely not live much longer. As Ma Baoguo's flying boat departed, a dark figure with a black curved saber hanging from his waist and a ghost-faced mask quietly followed. On the flying boat, Ma Baoguo took out several storage rings and put them on his hand. Looking at these beautiful storage rings, Ma Baoguo's eyes were filled with fervent excitement. Ma Baoguo looked at the storage rings and laughed, "Hee hee. I made a fortune." This trip to the Great Tang to collect tribute was something Ma Baoguo had put a lot of effort into applying for. After all, this was a lucrative job. Just this time, Ma Baoguo had pocketed 200,000 mid-grade spiritual stones in kickbacks. Even a Diyuan realm martial artist would be envious of so many spiritual stones. The Tianma dynasty also turned a blind eye to this matter. As long as the tribute was collected in full, they wouldn't care how excessive the envoy was. Soon, Ma Baoguo flew out of the Great Tang's territory. The flying boat Ma Baoguo was riding was a small Earth-rank flying boat uniformly distributed by the Tianma dynasty. One flying boat could only carry a dozen people. This kind of flying boat also had an advantage, which was its fast flying speed. It was 3 to 4 times faster than ordinary Earth-rank troop transport ships. This kind of flying boat was very popular on the Tianshuan continent. After all, on this continent, only major sects and nations needed to use large flying boats. Ma Baoguo, who was counting money, did not notice that in a corner of his flying boat, a pair of sharp eyes were staring intently at him. After a few more hours, the flying boat crossed another dynasty. The shadow guard hidden in the dark quietly approached Ma Baoguo from behind. As if sensing a chill behind him, Ma Baoguo instantly stood up, and his spiritual sense directly enveloped the surrounding space. The shadow guard hidden in the dark just stood still in place. After scanning a few times, Ma Baoguo frowned and then sat cross-legged in place, examining the storage ring in his hand, occasionally letting out strange cackles. The shadow guard watched the gradually perverted smile on Ma Baoguo's face and approached him from behind. Just as the shadow guard was about to raise his saber and chop off Ma Baoguo's head, Ma Baoguo did a donkey roll and dodged the fatal blow. Ma Baoguo looked at the shadow guard who had revealed his figure and said, "Who goes there? You actually came to sneak attack. To deceive this old man." Ma Baoguo looked at this assassin at the early Dan Yuan realm with solemn eyes. One must know that the most troublesome people in this world are always assassins, because they can achieve great things with little. An assassin at the early Dan Yuan realm is enough to kill a lone Di Yuan realm martial artist. As for Ma Baoguo, he was only at the peak Dan Yuan realm, so he wasn't confident he could escape from this assassin. Who exactly sent you? Zhang Xin was a decurion of the Shadow Guard. In terms of official rank, he was already a high-ranking official of the third rank in the court. This time, Zhang Han sent him to collect Ma Baoguo's head, and originally, he didn't really want to come. Because for someone like Ma Baoguo, any shadow guard in the Po-Shu realm could easily take him down. However, what he didn't expect was that this Ma Baoguo had some skill and was actually able to dodge his fatal blow. However, Zhang Xin immediately reflected on himself. He realized that he seemed to have made a mistake that an assassin should never make, which was underestimating his target. One must know that the assassin profession always adheres to the creed that even a lion uses its full strength when hunting a rabbit. However, today, as a seasoned assassin, he actually made such a low-level mistake. If Zhang Han found out, he would definitely be kicked out of the Shadow Guard. Zhang Xin looked at Ma Baoguo and said coldly, "Do you know? You are the first disgrace in my assassin career. Therefore, I have decided that today, I will openly and honorably eliminate you. Are you ready?" After Zhang Xin finished speaking, he held the black saber in his hand horizontally, his eyes fixed intently on Ma Baoguo. Hearing this, Ma Baoguo couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The most terrifying thing about an assassin is their elusive figure, making them impossible to guard against. However, since Zhang Xin actually wanted to confront him head-on, his combat power was immediately halved. However, Ma Baoguo still looked at Zhang Xin with a solemn face, because his intuition told him that this person was very dangerous. Although he had the advantage in realm, he did not dare to be careless in the slightest, because this continent did not lack geniuses who could fight above their level. Moreover, Ma Baoguo wouldn't think that the assassin in front of him was an idiot, because if an assassin dared to challenge you to a duel, either there was something wrong with his brain, or he was absolutely confident in taking your head. Ma Baoguo looked at Zhang Xin and angrily said, "Watch my lightning 5 consecutive whips. First whip. Second whip. Third whip." Ma Baoguo quickly unleashed 3 moves towards Zhang Xin. The lightning 5 consecutive whips indeed struck like lightning. Chapter 87 Anti-Gravity Formation. Zhang Xin looked at the 3 attacks coming towards him, the black knife in his hand vibrated, and a sword aura flew towards the 3 consecutive whips that were attacking. As the 2 attacks collided, the shockwave generated directly tore apart the airship beneath their feet. Zhang Xin was sent flying. Ma Baoguo watched as his lightning three consecutive whips were easily blocked by the man in front of him, his eyes filled with solemnity. You're quite interesting. Although these three attacks are a bit weak, their speed is quite fast. Listening to Zhang Xin's cold voice, Ma Baoguo knew that he was probably in danger this time. HMPH. Kid, do you know what it means that only speed is invincible? Lightning 5 consecutive whips. Zhang Xin looked at the 5 attacks coming again, quickly drew his knife and blocked. Ma Baoguo looked at Zhang Xin who was busy blocking, took out a formation plate from his storage ring, a trace of pain flashing in his eyes. He had spent over 100,000 mid-grade spiritual stones to buy this formation plate, which could teleport a person 100 miles away, but this formation plate could only be used once. It could be said that once used, Ma Baoguo's trip this time was basically in vain. However, for the sake of his life, Ma Baoguo decided to use it. Because he understood that he could not escape the pursuit of the person in front of him. After the exchange just now, Ma Baoguo understood that if he didn't leave now, he really wouldn't be able to leave. Just as Ma Baoguo was about to activate the teleportation formation, a black knife pierced through Ma Baoguo's heart from behind. Ma Baoguo looked at the black knife that had passed through his heart and murmured, "Ho, how possible?" Zhang Xin pulled the black knife out of Ma Baoguo's body and sneered, "You've been fighting with my clone for a long time, and you're only reacting now." Upon hearing this, Ma Baoguo spurted out blood from his mouth and fell straight down from the air. Zhang Xin grabbed with his left hand, and a formation plate and storage ring appeared in Zhang Xin's hand. Looking at the wreckage of the airship floating in midair, Zhang Xin waved his long knife and wiped away the surrounding traces. At the same time, the Shadow Guard began their actions against the envoys of the Tianma dynasty, and a silent massacre was underway. In a certain unknown mountain forest, a Shadow Guard cut off the head of the last envoy of the Tianma dynasty and disappeared from the spot. In the Great Tang Imperial Palace, Qin Tian was lying on a lounge chair, eating grapes peeled by a maid. Zhang Han's figure appeared silently beside Qin Tian, cupping his fists and saying, "General Bai. Greetings, Your Majesty." Qin Tian waved his hand, dismissing the maid, and said, "Zhang Han. How did things go?" "Reporting to Your Majesty. All the Tianma envoys have been beheaded, and the Shadow Guard annihilated a total of 43 envoys from the Tianma dynasty this time, confiscating 436 million low-grade spirit stones and 30 million mid-grade spirit stones. The total value of other items reached 10 million mid-grade spirit stones." Qin Tian stretched lazily and said, "Keep the confiscated items as your Shadow Guard's expenses. Give a portion to the Brocade Guard, their operations have expanded recently and they need more spiritual stones." "Yes. Your subject accepts the order." At the same time, in the imperial city of the Tianma dynasty. The emperor of the Tianma dynasty, Huo Jin, was holding morning court, and a guard ran in from outside the hall. Reporting to Your Majesty. All the envoys our dynasty sent out have been assassinated. The tributes paid by the various dynasties have all been plundered. Upon hearing this, Huo Jin slammed the dragon chair, stood up, and angrily said, "What? Have you investigated which force did this? My Tianma dynasty will make them pay a heavy price. One must know that the tributes collected by the Tianma dynasty from the various dynasties each time amounted to several hundred million, which was a considerable income for the Tianma dynasty." Moreover, what angered Huo Jin the most was that not a single one of the dozens of envoys sent out survived. One must know that this was tantamount to a huge slap in the face for the Tianma dynasty. This was a major blow to the prestige of the Tianma imperial family, so it was not just a matter of spiritual stones, but more importantly, the prestige of the Tianma imperial family was not to be violated. Reporting to Your Majesty. From the traces left at the scene, it appears to be the work of assassins skilled in assassination, and almost every envoy was killed with a single blow, without even a chance to react. Upon hearing this, Huo Jin's face turned gloomy. He knew that the mastermind of this incident must be one of the hostile dynasties, because the 3rd and 4th grade forces near the Tianma dynasty did not dare to lay a hand on the people of the Tianma dynasty, unless they were tired of living. However, the truth was not important to Huo Jin. Those spiritual stones and envoys were worth nothing compared to the face of the Tianma dynasty. Huo Jin looked at the courtiers and said coldly, issue the order. Uproot all foreign forces within the Tianma dynasty. I want the outside world to know that the prestige of my Tianma dynasty is not to be violated. Yes. Following Huo Jin's order, the hidden stakes of the various forces within the Tianma dynasty were liquidated, and for a time, blood flowed like rivers within the borders of the Tianma dynasty. In the hall of mental cultivation, Cao Zhengchun looked at Qin Tian lying idly on the couch, cupping his fists and saying, reporting to your majesty. The three chief academicians of the Great Tang Academy of Sciences request an audience. Upon hearing this, Qin Tian looked up at Cao Zhengchun and said, what do those guys want to see me for? Announce them. Yes. Announce. The three chief academicians of the Great Tang Academy of Sciences are granted an audience. Following the eunuch's shout outside the door, Zhuge Liang, Uizi, and Hua Tuo stepped into the hall of mental cultivation. Your subjects. Greetings, your majesty. Dispense with the formalities. Sit down. Qin Tian sat up as the three of them entered. Qin Tian looked at the three and said, the three of you have come to see me at the same time. Tell me, is there any good news? The few people looked at each other. Hua Tuo stepped forward and said, your majesty. Our Tang Dynasty still needs 1,000 mu of spiritual fields to plant spiritual herbs. Therefore, your subject has come this time to request it from your majesty. Upon hearing this, Qin Tian said, go find consort Shu about this matter. I have completely handed over the matter of the spiritual fields to her, you can just go find her directly. Upon hearing this, Hua Tuo cupped his fists and said, your subject. Thank you, your majesty. Qin Tian looked at Zhuge Liang and the other person and said, what about the two of you? Do you have any requests? Tell your majesty. Zhuge Liang and Uizi looked at each other and smiled, your majesty. Your subjects are not here to ask for things from your majesty, your two subjects are here to report good news to your majesty. Upon hearing this, Qin Tian smiled and said, oh. What surprise. Tell your majesty quickly. To be honest, Qin Tian was living like a salted fish every day now. He hardly had to handle government affairs or military affairs. He only needed to give some opinions on major personnel changes and direction setting. Qin Tian didn't even need to cultivate himself, and with the strengthening of the Great Tang's national destiny, Qin Tian's cultivation speed was getting faster and faster each day. Reporting to your majesty. The anti-gravity formation array that your two subjects have developed is finally usable. Upon hearing this, Qin Tian jumped up directly. Chapter 88. Ice God Valley arrives. Qin Tian looked at Zhuge Liang and said, really? Uizi cupped his fists and said, yes, your majesty. Lord Zhuge and I spent a year finally developing that array formation. Look. This is the core of our anti-gravity array formation. One core can lift 9,000 tons of weight, and the amount of spiritual stones the array formation consumes is far less than a flying array formation. This also allows us to realize our plan of building iron warships. The array plates we have built are divided into three sizes: large, medium, and small. The medium-sized array plate can lift 100 tons, and the small one can lift 50 tons. Moreover, the array plates can be stacked and used together. And your majesty. Through our joint efforts, we have successfully built the first super-large warship. Qin Tian laughed upon hearing this and said, where is it? Take your majesty to see. Uizi and Zhuge Liang exchanged smiles and said, your majesty, please. The Great Tang Science Academy is located on West Mountain within the West Liang territory. The entire mountain is protected by a massive killing array formed by more than a dozen ninth-order formation masters. The outer perimeter of the entire West Mountain is shrouded by an illusion array, capable of blocking the detection of a martial artist's divine sense. Qin Tian looked at the large plaque in front of the mountain gate and smiled, speaking of which, this is the first time your majesty has come to this Great Tang Science Academy. Let's go, take your majesty to see your so-called super warship. Your majesty, please. As Qin Tian stepped into the array formation, several thousand people were already waiting on both sides of the mountain road. Greetings, your majesty. Qin Tian looked at the academicians dressed in white robes kneeling on both sides of the mountain road and said, no need for such courtesy. Rise. The academicians in the Great Tang Science Academy hold at least a fifth-rank official position, and their salaries are considerably higher than those of first-rank officials in the court. Let's go. Your Majesty can't wait any longer. Yes. Qin Tian was led by Uyazi and others to a massive plaza. Your Majesty, please. Qin Tian looked at the huge empty space in front of him and asked in confusion, Uyazi, where is the warship? Uyazi and Zhuge Liang exchanged glances and smiled. Your Majesty, please look. As Uyazi and Zhuge Liang clapped their hands, a huge crack suddenly appeared in the center of the plaza, and then the ground began to tremble. A massive warship gradually revealed its form. Qin Tian gasped, looking at the warship that was over 600 meters long, over 80 meters high, and over 200 meters wide, possessing a strong sense of technology. Qin Tian looked at the massive warship and said, how many people can this warship transport at once? Uyazi cupped his fists upon hearing this and said, reporting to Your Majesty. This warship can carry 1 million fully armed soldiers. Moreover, the warship's own defensive capabilities are extremely strong. Even without activating the array formation, it can withstand the full-force attack of a Tian Yuan realm martial artist. Zhuge Liang smiled and said, the warship itself is mainly composed of 29th order formation masters, supplemented by 83 8th order array formations. The defensive array formations on the warship can simultaneously withstand the attacks of hundreds of Void Realm martial artists. Once the offensive array formations on the warship are activated, even a demigod would find it difficult to escape death. The warship's detection array formation can cover a radius of 8,000 li, and combined with the spirit stone cannons from the weapon pavilion, the warship has strong combat power even without activating the array formation. Uyazi said, our weapon pavilion has developed new spirit stone cannons. The power of each shell is equivalent to the self-detonation of a Tian Yuan realm peak martial artist. Even Void Realm martial artists would have to retreat 3 steps in front of them. Moreover, the newly developed projectiles are extremely fast, capable of flying at 300 times the speed of sound per second. Qin Tian listened to the two excitedly explaining the warship's performance. Qin Tian waved his hand and said, just tell Your Majesty directly. How many spiritual stones does this warship consume? Hearing Qin Tian's words, Uyazi cupped his fists and said, reporting to Your Majesty. If the warship is at full firepower, it consumes 1 million high-grade spiritual stones per hour. What is the manufacturing cost of the warship? 100 million high-grade spiritual stones. Qin Tian nearly spat out a mouthful of old blood upon hearing this, but for a warship with such powerful performance, a high cost was understandable. Qin Tian looked at the two and said, so, you called Your Majesty here today because you're out of funds, right? Uyazi's old face reddened upon hearing this and he said, yes, Your Majesty. Our Science Academy has many projects, so we would like to request some funding from you. Qin Tian looked at Uyazi and smiled, all right. Your Majesty understands. You can't fall behind on re-equipping the army. In a while, I will send you 50 million supreme-grade spirit stones. Great Tang is still in its initial stages, so don't squander all of Your Majesty's wealth. After speaking, Qin Tian left the Great Tang Science Academy. Currently, almost all of Great Tang's army needs to be re-equipped with new weapons and armor. The price of purchasing from the system is 3 times higher than making them themselves. Furthermore, Qin Tian now possesses a large amount of ore, so he has all the materials needed to refine yellow-grade and Zon-grade weapons. There is no need for him to buy from the system mall. The weapons used by the army summoned by Qin Tian are currently in a sealed state. Their weapons will improve as their level increases, so Qin Tian is not in a hurry to re-equip the elite troops. However, Great Tang has an army of over 100 million that needs to be re-equipped, so Qin Tian is under some pressure at this time, and his desire to make money has become much more urgent. Upon returning to the imperial city, Qin Tian had barely settled down when Cao Zhengchun ran up to Qin Tian and said, Your Majesty. Bing Yuyan, the young valley master of Ice God Valley, is requesting an audience outside the main hall. Qin Tian was first stunned upon hearing this, then frowned and said, why is she here? Announce her. Yes. Not long after, Bing Yuyan appeared before Qin Tian. Bing Yuyan walked into the main hall and saw Qin Tian seated at the top. Bing Yuyan hurriedly cupped her fists and said, Bing Yuyan of Ice God Valley greets your majesty. Qin Tian looked up at Bing Yuyan upon hearing this and said, have a seat and speak. Bing Yuyan walked to a chair nearby and sat down upon hearing this. Speak. What do you want to see your majesty for? Bing Yuyan said directly, I have come here to ask for a favor. Qin Tian looked up at Bing Yuyan with a puzzled expression and said, oh. Your majesty is very curious. Your Ice God Valley is a dignified first-rank power. What matter requires you to ask Great Tang for help? Bing Yuyan said directly, Your Majesty. Your Great Tang has a ninth order formation master, right? Qin Tian was first stunned upon hearing this, then smiled and said, what if we do? To be frank, the world knows that our Ice God Valley is at odds with the Array Formation Alliance, so I have come here this time to ask that ninth order formation master of Great Tang for help. If your majesty is willing to dispatch that ninth order formation master, you can name any condition. Moreover, our Ice God Valley will owe Great Tang a favor. Chapter 89 Deal done. Qin Tian knew that Ice God Valley had come with sincerity this time, and Qin Tian was also very tempted by the favor of Ice God Valley. After all, the favor of an Ice God Valley with tens of thousands of years of heritage cannot be measured by money. Moreover, if Qin Tian did not agree, it would be tantamount to directly indicating that he would stand against Ice God Valley. However, if he chose to help Ice God Valley, it would indicate that Qin Tian would stand against the Array Formation Alliance. Offending Ice God Valley might have some adverse effects on the development of Great Tang for now, as Ice God Valley knew that Zhuge Liang was not an Array Formation master of the Array Formation Alliance. If they seized the opportunity to act, even if the Array Formation Alliance found out afterwards, they would have no recourse against Ice God Valley. Moreover, even if Zhuge Liang went to Ice God Valley, the Array Formation Alliance might not necessarily know. The most important point was that if Great Tang helped Ice God Valley, it could obtain a large sum of commission, which was also a considerable boost for Great Tang, which urgently needed spiritual stones at the moment. Going might offend the Array Formation Alliance, but not going would definitely offend Ice God Valley. Qin Tian could still calculate such a simple account. Furthermore, relying on Ice God Valley, this great tree, could allow Qin Tian to gain valuable early development time. After all, currently, what Great Tang needed most was time and spiritual stones. Qin Tian looked at Bing Yuyan and took a sip of tea. Although he was very moved in his heart, Qin Tian still had to pretend to be composed on the surface. Qin Tian looked at Bing Yuyan and said, You just said that your Ice God Valley has always been at odds with the Array Formation Alliance. If I send Zhuge Liang to help you, won't it make it clear that our Great Tang wants to be enemies with the Array Formation Alliance? Our Great Tang is just a low-ranked dynasty. We cannot afford to offend the Array Formation Alliance. Your Ice God Valley is strong, but compared to the Array Formation Alliance, your Ice God Valley is still not as good as them, right? Bing Yuyan heard this and smiled, saying, Your Majesty. Please rest assured. No one will know about you sending an Array Formation Master to repair the Array Formation for Ice God Valley. Moreover, this time we are asking for your country's Array Formation Master only to repair the Array Formation that was previously damaged. We will be responsible for the materials needed. I believe your Majesty is a wise ruler and will naturally understand the reasoning behind this, right? Qin Tian heard this and the corner of his mouth slightly rose, saying, Can I understand that you are threatening your Majesty? No. Let's be clear. Help our Ice God Valley, and you can gain the friendship of our Ice God Valley. Don't help. You will offend Ice God Valley. As for the Array Formation Alliance, I guarantee they will not receive any news about this matter. This is our deposit. After the matter is completed, we will pay another 21 million Supreme Grade Spirit Stones as commission. After Bing Yuyan finished speaking, she handed over a storage ring. Qin Tian took the storage ring and immediately swept it with his divine sense, discovering that there were a total of 7 million Supreme Grade Spirit Stones in the storage ring. Qin Tian heard this and shook his head, saying, This Ice God Valley is indeed a first-grade force, truly generous with their spending. All right. Your Majesty won't beat around the bush with you anymore. How about this? After the matter is completed, your Ice God Valley will also promise to help Great Tang with 3 things within your capabilities. After all, the risk we are taking is truly too great, There's a risk of being annihilated if we're not careful. Bing Yuyan heard this and first frowned slightly, saying, all right. However, we need the array formation master under your command to set off immediately. Qin Tian nodded and said, someone. Cao Zhengchun heard this, walked into the hall of mental cultivation, cupped his fists, and said, this humble servant is here. Issue an order to Zhuge Liang. Tell him to set off immediately and come to the hall of mental cultivation. Yes. Not long after, Zhuge Liang arrived at the hall of mental cultivation. Zhuge Liang first glanced at Bing Yuyan, then cupped his fists and said, your subject. Zhuge Liang greets your majesty. Dispense with the formalities. Thank you, your majesty. Kongming. This is the young valley master of Ice God Valley. You two have met. The reason I called you here this time is to ask you to go back with her to help their Ice God Valley repair the damaged array formation. After Qin Tian finished speaking, he turned to Bing Yuyan again and said, your majesty has called the person for you. How do you plan to take him back? Zhuge Liang is the chief advisor of our military department, handling countless affairs every day. If he is gone for too long, no one will handle the military affairs that pile up. Your majesty, please rest assured. Lord Zhuge's time will not be wasted on the road. As soon as he repairs the array formation, we will send him back immediately. Mehua Popo. As Bing Yuyan's words fell, an eldress holding a walking stick appeared in the hall of mental cultivation. Greetings, young master. Greetings, your majesty. Bing Yuyan looked at Qin Tian and said, this time, Lord Zhuge will be taken back by Mehua Popo. Mehua Popo is a void realm expert and can open spatial wormholes. Returning from Great Tang to Ice God Valley will only take half a month to arrive, so your majesty can rest assured. Qin Tian looked at Bing Yuyan and nodded, saying, but then again, if you take my person away and then place him under house arrest, wouldn't your majesty have lost both the wife and the soldiers? How about this? You stay here. She takes my person back. This way, your majesty will feel more at ease. Bing Yuyan first frowned slightly, then immediately said, all right. Mehua Popo heard this and stepped forward, saying, young master. You cannot. Popo, please rest assured. I believe your majesty will definitely guarantee my safety, won't he? After Bing Yuyan finished speaking, she turned her head to look at Qin Tian, the threat in her words self-evident. Qin Tian looked at Bing Yuyan and said, of course. Your majesty guarantees. As long as it's not a martial god realm expert coming personally, no one can harm a single hair on her head. Of course. During this period, you must ensure that you do not leave the imperial palace by even half a step. Otherwise, if anything happens, your majesty will not be responsible. You had best take this sentence back for your valley master to hear. Although our great Tang is weak now, we are not made of mud. Mehua Popo heard this, frowned, and looked at Bing Yuyan, saying, young master. You. All right. Mehua Popo. You should take Mr. Zhuge back to Ice God Valley first. It won't be too late to come pick me up after everything is finished. Mehua Popo looked at the resolute Bing Yuyan. She also knew what inviting Zhuge Liang this time meant for Ice God Valley. However, she couldn't help but worry about Bing Yuyan's safety. After all, Bing Yuyan had been by her side since childhood, and in her heart, she had long regarded Bing Yuyan as her granddaughter. However, she also knew Bing Yuyan's character. Ice God Valley didn't even have a spirit gathering array now. If things continued like this, Ice God Valley would decline sooner or later. If there was a chance to save Ice God Valley, Bing Yuyan would even sacrifice her life. Mehua Popo looked at the resolute Bing Yuyan and sighed, alas. All right then. Young master, please take care. Chapter 90. Leaving a hostage. Mehua Popo finished speaking and looked at Mr. Zhuge, saying, Mr. Zhuge. Do you need to prepare anything? Zhuge Liang waved his hands and said, no. Hearing this, Mehua Popo grabbed with one hand beside her, and immediately a spatial wormhole appeared in the main hall. Mehua Popo looked at Mr. Zhuge and said, Mr. Zhuge. Please. Hearing this, Zhuge Liang cupped his fist towards Qin Tian and said, Your Majesty. Your subject takes his leave. Hearing this, Qin Tian nodded and said, go. After Zhuge Liang stepped into the wormhole, Mehua Popo slightly bowed towards the crowd, turned around, and disappeared into the spatial wormhole. Looking at the disappearing two, Qin Tian said to Bing Yuyan, "You will stay in the imperial palace from now on. Except for a very few places in the entire imperial palace, you can go anywhere else. Cao Zhengchun. This humble servant is here. Take the guest down and settle her in well. Her treatment will be according to the standard for the imperial consorts." Yes. Cao Zhengchun walked to Bing Yuyan's side, extended his right hand, and said, "Ice girl. Please come this way." Bing Yuyan was extremely wary of Cao Zhengchun. Last time, with his Di Yuan realm early stage strength, he stopped 9 Tian Yuan realm experts, including a Tian Yuan realm peak expert, which left a very deep impression on Bing Yuyan. She couldn't understand how Qin Tian, with mere Dan Yuan realm strength, could keep so many peerless masters by his side. Her curiosity about Qin Tian grew stronger. After all, she really wanted to understand how Qin Tian, this emperor, controlled the heavens-favored individuals under his command. Watching the departing Bing Yuyan, Qin Tian shouted in his sea of consciousness, "Wei Wei. Come out for a moment." "Ah. What is it?" "It's about my main quest. Do I really have to destroy a dynasty to complete the quest? Is there no other way?" Qin Tian had wanted to ask this question for a long time, as he truly didn't want to show off. He wanted to frantically snatch up resources from the three great empires to develop while he could. So, for now, Qin Tian needed to find a way to safely lay low and complete the main quest without attracting outside attention. Yes. According to the judgment rules of the Tianshuan continent, as long as your country's population reaches 20 trillion, and you have one or more Banshan realm martial artists, as for spiritual energy density, Great Tang can now rival some weaker dynasties. So, next, you only need to make Great Tang's population reach 3 trillion, and have one more Banshan realm martial artist guarding it. As for empires, the population needs to reach 40 trillion or more, and you need 10 or more martial god realm experts guarding it. As for Great Tang's current spiritual energy density, it just needs to increase by 20 times. Hearing this, Qin Tian immediately shouted, "What? That difficult? What did you think? This is already the simplest method. Otherwise, you could just directly annihilate a dynasty or an empire." Hearing this, Qin Tian almost fainted. Good heavens, becoming a dynasty was already very difficult, especially in terms of population. The major kingdoms have very strict control over their populations. You should know that population is linked to a country's luck. If a country experiences serious population loss, its strength will also decline. The importance of luck is self-evident. For the emperor, it can directly increase combat power, allowing them to fight above their level. For civil and martial generals, the higher their official position, the more favor they receive from luck. The stronger the luck, the faster their cultivation speed and the lower the difficulty of breaking through realms. Given the current strength of Great Tang's dragon vein, it is very easy for Great Tang's first-rank ministers to cultivate to the Tian Yuan realm by relying on the dragon vein. After the Tian Yuan realm, it can only slightly speed up cultivation. This is also why those experts are willing to serve a kingdom. Because the dragon vein represents a certain will of heaven and earth, and being stained with the aura of the dragon vein invisibly increases a lot of luck. And people with good luck will find cultivation much easier, but the dragon vein's boost is also limited. It's not like you can just bestow it upon anyone you want. The more high-ranking officials are bestowed, the less luck each minister can share, otherwise, it would become chaotic. This is also the reason for so much infighting in the imperial court. The reason those ministers attack their political enemies so fiercely is that they want to contend for more luck to bless themselves. He waved his hand and said, "All right. I understand." "Oh right. Didn't you say you wanted to condense a body? How is it going?" "Lately, I've been spending a lot in the system mall to re-equip the army." "How many spiritual stones do you still need to condense a body?" Hearing this, Wei Wei counted on her fingers and said, "Approximately 300 million supreme-grade spirit stones." "Oh right, you." Hearing this, Qin Tian immediately interrupted, I still have things to do, let's not chat for now." Wei Wei looked at Qin Tian, who had actively cut off the spiritual connection, and almost fainted from anger. "Damn Qin Tian. Just you wait." Qin Tian paid no mind to the fuming Wei Wei. "Are you kidding? 300 million supreme-grade spirit stones is no small sum, he wouldn't spend that money foolishly for an AI idiot." After cutting off the connection with Wei Wei, Qin Tian sat on the chair and pondered for a while before saying, Sao Zhengchun. This humble servant is here. Summon Shen Wanson to see your majesty. Yes. What Qin Tian needed most now was time and spiritual stones. As long as he had enough spiritual stones, he could even pull gods off their thrones. Therefore, Qin Tian planned to start the next phase of his money-making scheme. Not long after, Shen Wanson was brought before Qin Tian. Shen Wanson looked at Qin Tian, cupped his fist, and said, Your subject greets your majesty. Qin Tian looked at Shen Wanson and said, Dispense with the formalities. After speaking, Qin Tian stepped forward and put his arm around Shen Wanson's shoulder, saying, Wanson. What is the daily transaction volume with the orcs now? Hearing this, Shen Wanson said, Your Majesty. The current daily transaction volume is approximately 100 million mid-grade spiritual stones. After deducting costs, we can net over 60 million mid-grade spiritual stones. In a year, that's 2.2 billion high-grade spiritual stones. Hearing this, Qin Tian laughed and said, Wanson. Have you thought about expanding the business even further? Hearing this, Shen Wanson frowned and said, Your Majesty. Theoretically, it is possible, but we have already taken a large portion of the pie from the three great empires. Moreover, I can guarantee that all the duchies of the orc race are definitely being monitored by the Void Realm martial artists of the three great empires. As soon as our people appear, they will definitely be assassinated. Your subject actually thought about popularizing small teleportation arrays through the orcs, but the teleportation arrays we gave to the orcs are independent. There is also a lot of conflict among the orc race, they would rather other duchies cannot trade with us. Therefore, the feasibility of this method is not high. Hearing this, Qin Tian immediately became depressed. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 91. The Alchemist Alliance arrives. Qin Tian looked at Shen Wanson and said, Since that's the case, let's forget about it. Although we urgently need spiritual stones right now, we still need to prioritize stability. Well, you may withdraw first. Your Majesty is tired. Shen Wanson heard this, cupped his fists, and said, Your subject takes his leave. Not long after Shen Wanson withdrew, Sao Zhengchun came before Qin Tian, cupped his fists, and said, Reporting to your Majesty. The Brocade Guard has reported. They said that the forces of the Alchemist Alliance have been discovered at the Great Tang border. It seems they intend to establish themselves in our Great Tang. Does your Majesty wish for this old servant to expel them? Qin Tian felt a sudden headache upon hearing this, because the arrival of people from the four great alliances in Great Tang was not good news, as it meant that the four great alliances had planted spies in Great Tang. Moreover, Qin Tian couldn't do anything about those spies. According to their nature, they would definitely be arrogant and overbearing, and Qin Tian didn't want to have a few more masters above him. Perhaps other forces, upon learning that the forces of the four great alliances were going to establish themselves, would welcome them with open arms. But Qin Tian was different, these four great alliances were truly of no use to him. Qin Tian's most important goal at the moment was to develop discreetly. If the people from the four great alliances were to establish themselves in Great Tang, it would inevitably cause some impact. However, Qin Tian couldn't openly drive them away. If he really did that, it would be difficult for Qin Tian not to become famous, and doing so would also offend the four great alliances. Qin Tian looked at Sao Zhengchun and said, Forget it. Let those alchemists in. Don't make things difficult for them. After they enter the city, have the Ministry of Rites receive them. Outside Kyoto, a 7th grade alchemist from the Alchemist Alliance, accompanied by 3 4th grade alchemists, looked at the 100-meter tall majestic city wall and laughed. Is this the Great Tang imperial capital? The concentration of spiritual energy here is not much worse than that of those slightly lower-ranked dynasties. It seems this newly established Great Tang should not be underestimated. We were indeed right to come this time. Let's go. Enter the city. Yes, Master. After Zhao Yu finished speaking, he led his 3 disciples into the imperial city. Just as the group reached the gate of the imperial city, a guard on duty stopped Zhao Yu and said, Stop. What are you doing? Zhao Yu's eldest disciple, Xuan, stepped forward and shouted, Audacious. My master is the branch president sent by the Alchemist Alliance to establish a branch in Great Tang. How dare you obstruct us? The guard at the gate hesitated upon hearing this. He also knew that alchemists had noble status and should not be easily offended. He then said, "Please wait. We will report first." Not long after, the captain in charge of the guard duty came before Zhao Yu with his hands behind his back and said, "Are you from the Alchemist Alliance?" Shu An stepped forward and said, "Of course. My master is a 7th grade alchemist." "How can you prove it?" "This is our Alchemist Alliance's token. It has our Alchemist Alliance's special mark on it. Outsiders cannot imitate it at all." The captain took the token from Shu An's hand, examined it, then cupped his fists and said, "Gentlemen, I apologize for the previous rudeness. Please come in." After the handover was completed, Zhao Yu led his 3 disciples into the imperial city. The guard on duty looked at the backs of Zhao Yu and the others and said, "This is the first time I've seen a living alchemist." The captain heard this and directly slapped the back of the guard's head, saying, "Focus on your post. Why so much nonsense?" Just as Zhao Yu and his group had settled into the inn, Qian Zhang, the Minister of Rites of Great Tang, came knocking on the door. Qian Zhang looked at Zhao Yu, cupped his fists, and said, "Presumably, you are the branch president sent by the Alchemist Alliance, right? I apologize for not coming to meet you sooner. I apologize. Haha. My name is Qian Zhang. I am the Minister of Rites of Great Tang." Zhao Yu sized up the Minister of Rites, who was in the mid-stage of the Dan Yuan realm, the same realm as himself. He cupped his fists and said, "Fellow Taoist Qian. My name is Zhao Yu. I am a 7th grade alchemist. I have come this time by the command of the Alliance to establish a branch in Great Tang." Although Zhao Yu was a 7th-tier alchemist and his status was much higher than that of martial artists in the Dan Yuan realm, he still showed the proper respect towards martial artists of the same level. After all, he wasn't brainless. Qian Zhang looked at Zhao Yu and smiled, "Master Zhao. By order of your majesty, I have gratuitously arranged a piece of land in the imperial city for you as a small token of our regard. This can also be considered a meeting gift from our your majesty. However, Master Zhao, let me make it clear up front. Within the borders of Great Tang, you must strictly adhere to the rules of Great Tang, otherwise there will be considerable trouble." Zhao Yu hadn't spoken yet when Shu An couldn't help but take a step forward into the mountain concept and said, "What do you mean? Where do we from the Alchemist Alliance not get treated as honored guests? Now that we've come to your Great Tang, not only does your emperor not personally receive us, you just give us a piece of sloped land and still expect us to obey the rules of Great Tang. Do you believe that we will turn around and leave Great Tang right now? From now on, our Alchemist Alliance will never again establish an alchemist branch in Great Tang." Zhao Yu looked at the furious Shu An and did not stop him, because Qian Zhang's words had also made him somewhat displeased. No matter what, he was a 7th-tier alchemist. Wherever he went, he would be treated as an honored guest. When had he ever been treated like this? Qian Zhang looked at the furious Shu An and ignored him, only looking at Zhao Yu and saying, "Master Zhao. I know that your alchemist status is noble, but our Great Tang is truly different from other places. If you want to stay in Great Tang, you must abide by the laws of Great Tang. Here, besides the current Your Majesty, everyone is equal before the laws of Great Tang. I am also giving a kind reminder. If any of you accidentally violate the laws of Great Tang, then we will also handle it according to the laws of Great Tang. If you wish to stay, please consider it carefully. How about it, Master Zhao?" Zhao Yu looked at the neither humble nor arrogant Qian Zhang and was momentarily in a dilemma. After all, leaving like this would indeed be somewhat embarrassing. As for taking action, Zhao Yu immediately dismissed that idea. Because when he entered the city just now, more than a dozen divine senses, infinitely stronger than his own, had swept over him. One of them had a cold aura that sent shivers down Zhao Yu's spine. This was also why Zhao Yu still didn't dare to make a fuss. "Brother Qian." Just as Zhao Yu was thinking, a voice came. Qian Zhang heard someone calling him and quickly turned around, finding a scholar in a blue robe walking towards him. Upon seeing the person, Qian Zhang quickly cupped his fists and said, "Brother Zhang. Long time no see." Manager Zhang looked at Qian Zhang and smiled, "Hey. Isn't it the end of the year? The court's salary is about to be distributed, so I've been busy refining the necessary pills recently. I just came from the Ministry of Revenue. This year's court salaries have all been refined. How about it? Are you free? Let's go have a couple of drinks for old time's sake. Although the scholars of the Great Tang Academy of Sciences were only ranked third and had no real power, they controlled the lifeline of pills, so many court officials did not dare to offend them. And since Qian Zhang and Manager Zhang were good friends, the two of them seemed very cordial at this moment. Zhao Yu looked at the two greeting each other and was shocked. Chapter 92. Alchemist Alliance's Recruitment. Zhao Yu looked at the two people talking and was very surprised, because he could tell that Manager Zhang's soul realm was slightly above the 6th grade alchemist level, and he was not far from the 7th grade level. And Great Tang, a mere small country that had just risen, actually had a 6th grade alchemist serving it, which was truly beyond Zhao Yu's expectations. Manager Zhang also noticed Zhao Yu standing beside him at this time, so he turned to Qian Zhang and said, "Brother Qian, who are these people?" Shuan looked at the two people who finally noticed him, stepped forward, and said, "Kid. Look clearly. This is my benefactor master. At the same time, he is also the branch president sent by our Alchemist Alliance to establish a branch in Great Tang. My master is a genuine 7th grade alchemist." Manager Zhang nodded and said, "Oh. So that's how it is. Greetings, senior." Zhao Yu looked at Manager Zhang's age, which was probably in his 20s. At such a young age, he was already a 6th grade alchemist, close to the 7th grade level. What initially surprised Zhao Yu was that Great Tang actually had a 6th grade alchemist serving it. Immediately after, Zhao Yu came back to his senses and realized that Manager Zhang's age seemed to be not very old. When he was in his 20s, he was still a 3rd grade alchemist, and his 3 disciples were only 4th grade alchemists, and their ages had already exceeded 40. With Manager Zhang's talent, even if he were placed in the Alchemist Alliance, he would belong to the ranks of geniuses and would receive key cultivation from the Alchemist Alliance. However, what surprised Zhao Yu was that Manager Zhang had not registered with the Alchemist Alliance, so at this time, Zhao Yu had the idea of recruiting Manager Zhang. After all, being able to bring a genius to the Alchemist Alliance would mean he would not receive few rewards. Zhao Yu looked at Manager Zhang and said, "Little brother, judging by your appearance, you probably haven't registered with the Alchemist Alliance, right?" Manager Zhang shook his head upon hearing this and said, "Alchemist Alliance? No." Shuan looked at Manager Zhang and sneered, "Master. Is this kid still an alchemist? I wanted to expose him just now. What kind of alchemists can come out of this poor and remote place? Looking at him, I'm afraid he's not even a 1st grade alchemist, right? Only a small country like Great Tang would treat someone like this as a distinguished guest." Qian Zhang and Manager Zhang just exchanged a smile and did not speak, because an elephant would not pay attention to the ridicule of an ant. Zhao Yu looked at Shuan, who was looking down on others, and veins bulged on his forehead. Just this sentence from Shuan could make the Alchemist Association miss a talented alchemist with outstanding aptitude. Shuan. Shut up. Kneel down. Apologize to this little brother. He is a 6th grade alchemist. How can you, a mere 4th grade alchemist, comment? Shuan was stunned upon hearing this. He really didn't expect that a young man who looked like he was only in his early 20s was actually a 6th grade alchemist, and he had even offended him. In reaching the 6th grade alchemist level at such a young age, even within the Alchemist Alliance, he would be in existence like a true disciple. One must know that if a genius disciple wanted to kill him, even his master wouldn't be able to stop it. After all, offending a talented alchemist with boundless prospects would have terrifying consequences. Thinking of this, Shuan hurriedly knelt down and said, "This senior, this junior was wrong. I deserve to die. I deserve to die." Manager Zhang looked at Shuan, who was continuously slapping himself, and waved his hand, saying, "All right. I didn't take it to heart. It's you need to rein in your impatient temper, otherwise, you won't be so lucky next time. Little brother is magnanimous. However, since it is my disciple who made a mistake, as his master, I naturally have to punish him. Shuan. Disciple is here. Effective immediately. You are demoted to my registered disciple. When you perform well, I, as your master, will let you regain your disciple status. During this time, you should properly temper your character." Shuan raised his head upon hearing this and looked at Zhao Yu, saying, "Master. All right. Don't say any more. Since you made a mistake, you must accept the punishment." Upon hearing this, Xu An's face instantly turned ashen. For Xu An, this was undoubtedly a death sentence. Because he understood his master, once he was demoted to his registered disciple, it was no different from being expelled from the sect. Zhao Yu's two disciples looked at Xu An's appearance, and the corners of their mouths curled up slightly, because Xu An was arrogant and domineering and often relied on his status and cultivation to bully them, snatching a lot of resources from them. This time, Xu An was demoted to a registered disciple, so he shouldn't even think about getting back up, and Xu An shouldn't think about escaping either. Alchemists attach great importance to their lineage. Once chosen, one must be loyal for life. Once they betray, they will be rejected by all alchemists and become an existence that everyone shouts at and attacks. Xu An, his body limp, kowtowed to Zhao Yu and said, "Yes, Master." Zhao Yu looked at Manager Zhang and cupped his fists, saying, "I wonder if little brother is willing to join our alchemist alliance. Of course, our alchemist alliance will not restrict your personal freedom, you only need to register with the Alchemist Alliance. Once you register with the Alchemist Alliance, you will receive the protection of the Alchemist Alliance for life." Manager Zhang smiled upon hearing this and said, "Thank you, senior, for your kindness. I am an academician of Great Tang and will not consider joining other forces." Sorry. Zhao Yu did not want to miss this opportunity to render a great service, so he immediately said, "Little brother, are you really not going to consider it? Our Alchemist Alliance is a first-grade force on Tianshuan continent. The foundation we possess is something Great Tang cannot compare to. Once you join the Alchemist Alliance, it will be of great benefit to you. Why humble yourself in Great Tang? Furthermore, with your talent, once you join the Alchemist Alliance, you will be a key cultivation target. Within a few years, you will be able to advance to a 7th-grade or even an 8th-grade alchemist." Zhao Yu's words were not a joke. The younger one was on the path of cultivation. The fewer impurities there were in the body, the lower the difficulty of cultivation, and the faster the cultivation speed. With Manager Zhang's talent, as long as he joined the Alchemist Alliance, in the near future, the Alchemist Alliance would have one more 9th-grade alchemist. And once Manager Zhang was recommended to the Alchemist Alliance, Zhao Yu would have the resources to advance to an 8th-grade alchemist, and his position within the Alchemist Alliance would also rise by several levels. This was also why he wanted to demote Xu An to a registered disciple, because Manager Zhang was truly too important to him. Upon hearing this, Qian Zhang immediately became unhappy. After all, no matter what, Zhao Yu was poaching Great Tang's talent right in front of him, which was equivalent to slapping his face. Although he knew that Manager Zhang could not possibly join the Alchemist Alliance, being slapped in the face by Zhao Yu like this still made him unhappy. After all, a 7th-grade alchemist was nothing in front of Great Tang. Qian Zhang looked at Zhao Yu with a gloomy expression and said, "Master Zhao. You were sent by the Alchemist Alliance to establish a branch in Great Tang, and I don't want to disrespect you, but poaching our Great Tang's talent right in front of me is a bit out of line, isn't it? Let me answer this question for Brother Zhang. You don't need to worry about it. Brother Zhang is not interested in your Alchemist Alliance. Farewell." Manager Zhang smiled, glanced at Xu An beside Zhao Yu, turned around, and left the spot. Chapter 93. Zhang Zixin faces a new crisis. Seeing Manager Zhang glance at him before leaving, Xu An collapsed onto the ground. He knew he was finished, he wasn't stupid. The look in Manager Zhang's eyes before he left meant his path as an alchemist had come to an end, and he might not even keep his life. He also understood the weight of a genius alchemist, which directly affected his master's future. And with his master's sinister and ruthless nature, it was hard to say if he would be able to keep his life afterward. Xu An looked up and saw Zhao Yu's cold expression, quickly begging for mercy, "Master, spare my life. Master." Disciple knows his mistake. Zhao Yu just looked at Xu An, who was kowtowing on the ground, without speaking, merely letting out a cold snort and flicking his sleeves as he left. Xu An watched Zhao Yu's departing figure and swallowed. He knew Zhao Yu was truly angry. He had been by Zhao Yu's side for so many years and had seen Zhao Yu strike down his disciple many times. This time, he was afraid it would be difficult to end well, so Xu An now had the idea of escaping. Tianshuan continent was so vast, there was always a place for him to flee. At worst, he could seek refuge with the Beastmen. Many human clan alchemists, after being wanted by the Alchemist Alliance, fled to the territory of the orc to seek protection. Moreover, as a martial artist of the Po-Shu realm, he was considered a master on this Tianshuan continent. Fleeing to the territory of the orc was not a problem, and the territory of Great Tang was adjacent to the orc. Thinking of this, Shu An's eyes became even more determined. Watching Zhao Yu's disappearing figure, Shu An's figure quietly vanished into the crowd. In the imperial palace, Cao Zhengchun walked up to Qin Tian, who was lying there like a corpse, and cupped his fists, reporting to Your Majesty. The forces of the Alchemist Alliance have already arrived in Kyoto. During this time, Lord Qian and academician manager Zhang had some friction with them. Qin Tian heard this and waved his hand. All right. Your Majesty knows. Keep a close watch on the people from the Alchemist Alliance, and don't relax at the Tianshuan auction house either. Yes. This humble servant understands. Qin Tian stretched and said, all right. You may go first. This old servant takes his leave. Not long after Cao Zhengchun left, Bing Yuyan came to Qin Tian's side. Looking at Qin Tian lying listlessly on the chair, Bing Yuyan said, I say, as the great Tang Emperor, are you so lazy every day? Don't you have to deal with government affairs? Qin Tian heard this, pushed his sunglasses down, looked at the several maids fanning him with fans, and said, go. Get a lounge chair. Yes, Your Majesty. After a few breaths, the maids brought a lounge chair and placed it not far from Qin Tian. Qin Tian looked at Bing Yuyan and said, sit down. Bing Yuyan heard this and sat down directly. Bing Yuyan looked at the dispirited Qin Tian and frowned, hey. You haven't answered my question yet. Qin Tian heard this, sat up, looked at Bing Yuyan, and said, forget it. Your Majesty is lying here, and my bones are about to fall apart. Then Your Majesty will reluctantly tell you. You asked Your Majesty why I don't deal with government affairs, right? Then Your Majesty's answer is, Your Majesty has people in my hands. With them, why should Your Majesty still deal with government affairs? Your Majesty is not raising pigs. Then aren't you afraid they will usurp your power? Qin Tian turned his head to look at this beautiful girl. Looking at Bing Yuyan's exquisite face, even Qin Tian, who had seen countless beauties, couldn't help but be amazed for a moment. However, Qin Tian quickly withdrew his gaze. Bing Yuyan looked at Qin Tian's eyes and was slightly stunned at first, then quickly regained clarity. This was the first time she had met such a man. Qin Tian's eyes when looking at her were different from those of the men she had met. Qin Tian had always ignored her before, which made her doubt her own beauty for a time. After all, she had grown up, and this was the first time she had met a man like Qin Tian. To be honest, Bing Yuyan was truly beautiful, so Qin Tian often subconsciously avoided her. Because as a male creature, Qin Tian would also have a favorable impression of a beautiful female. But Qin Tian always had a principle: don't provoke troublesome women, no matter how beautiful they are. In real life, many people mess up their lives because they choose a life they cannot handle. And Bing Yuyan was beautiful, and she also had the Ice God Valley, this behemoth, behind her. This made Qin Tian, who currently only wanted to develop steadily, not want to provoke her. Because once he provoked her, he would face great trouble. After all, pulling up a radish brings soil with it. The saying, people in the martial world are not in control of themselves, refers to this. The Ice God Valley was such a large force, and there were many interest disputes involved. If something really happened, the consequences were definitely not something the current Great Tang could bear. Qin Tian looked at the serious Bing Yuyan and smiled, they can try. However, as long as the national strength of Great Tang gradually rises and the common people can live and work in peace, it doesn't really matter whether I, the emperor, am here or not. Bing Yuyan looked at Qin Tian, shook her head, and smiled, this is the first time I've seen an emperor like you. Since you dislike holding power so much, why do you still want to be emperor? After Bing Yuyan finished speaking, she knew she had overstepped. However, looking at Qin Tian, he didn't seem to mind. Qin Tian heard this, turned to look at Bing Yuyan, and smiled, that's a secret. Bing Yuyan looked at Qin Tian, who was lazily lying on the lounge chair, and said, then let me ask you another question, am I not beautiful? You don't need me to answer this question, I think you already know the answer, right? Then why don't you look at me? Am I so unattractive in your heart? Bing Yuyan finished speaking and looked at Qin Tian, couldn't help but frown. Qin Tian heard this and smiled. You are very beautiful. But compared to beauty, I prefer peace. How so? Your beauty and background will bring me trouble. Although I am not afraid of trouble, I dislike trouble. Bing Yuyan heard this, and a hint of disappointment flashed in her eyes. She understood what Qin Tian was saying. Qin Tian looked at Bing Yuyan beside him and said, let's go. You've been in Great Tang for a few days now. Your Majesty will treat you to something delicious. After Qin Tian finished speaking, he walked ahead. Bing Yuyan looked at Qin Tian's back, a smile curled up at the corner of her mouth, and she followed. At the same time, in Xiliang City, Lu Bo came to Zhang Zixin and said, Miss. News has come from the family. They said the standard for the year-end assessment has been raised. Zhang Zixin heard this and smiled. It seems they still haven't given up. But they want me to accept my fate just like that. That's impossible. Those elders of the family want to marry me off to the Star Empire. They can keep dreaming. That Chen Haolong is not a good person either. Lu Bo looked at Zhang Zixin grinding her teeth and quietly withdrew. Chapter 94 Arrival at Ice God Valley. In the northern snowfields of Tianshuan continent, amidst the vast snowy mountains, a black hole suddenly appeared. Immediately after, the figures of Zhuge Liang and Mehua Popo emerged before the black hole. Zhuge Liang looked at the vast ice plain before him and asked, where is this? Hearing this, Mehua Popo rasped with a hoarse voice, Ice God Valley. Mr. Zhuge, follow me. Having said that, Mehua Popo took the lead and walked forward. Not long after they started walking, a flight of steps suddenly appeared before them. Following the steps upwards, they soon saw a large gate carved from white jade. The words, Ice God Valley, were carved on the gate. Zhuge Liang looked at the bare mountain entrance and complained, Mehua Popo, why doesn't your Ice God Valley even have a mountain protection array? Hearing this, Mehua Popo turned to look at Zhuge Liang and sighed, ah. This isn't some secret, it's almost common knowledge on the Tianshuan continent. Let this old one tell you about it. Mehua Popo looked up at the snowflakes falling from the sky and fell into reminiscence. About 20,000 years ago, our Ice God Valley once killed a high-level array formation master, thus offending the Array Formation Alliance. To establish their might before the world and to avenge that Array Formation master, the Array Formation Alliance gathered forces and attacked Ice God Valley. Consider that our Ice God Valley was originally the number 1 first-rank force on the Tianshuan continent, but after that battle, our sect's strength was greatly diminished. Even the arrays within the sect were completely destroyed because those arrays were built by their Array Formation Alliance. Furthermore, the Array Formation Alliance strictly prohibited all Array Formation masters from helping Ice God Valley rebuild arrays, otherwise they would be offending the Array Formation Alliance. Since then, our Ice God Valley began to decline. By now, were it not for the support of our former foundation, our Ice God Valley would have almost fallen out of the ranks of first-rank forces. If it weren't for Martial God Island mediating that battle, our Ice God Valley should have been annihilated 20,000 years ago. In that battle, our Ice God Valley alone lost 10 Supreme Elders in the Martial God realm. Although Array Formation Masters had endless methods, 8 Martial God realm experts from the Array Formation Alliance were still exchanged for by our sect's old ancestors who fought to the death. The battles between Martial God realm martial artists were enough to destroy the heavens and earth. Originally, the northern ice plain had 100,000 snow-capped mountains stretching for 10 million li, but they were all razed to the ground after that battle. Since experiencing that battle, Martial God Island has explicitly prohibited martial artists in the Martial God realm from participating in wars between forces. Listening to Mehua Popo's words, Zhuge Liang's heart was stirred by tumultuous waves. Even martial artists in the Martial God realm had fallen in that battle. How earth-shattering must that battle have been? The two walked and chatted, and before they knew it, they had arrived in front of the large gate. Stop. Who goes there? Why are you trespassing in my Ice God Valley? Just as Zhuge Liang and the other person were about to approach the gate, 2 Ice God Valley disciples in white robes suddenly appeared in front of the gate and stopped them. Mehua Popo looked at the 2 Ice God Valley disciples blocking their path, took out a waist token, and held it in her hand. Upon seeing the waist token, the 2 Ice God Valley disciples immediately clasped their fists and said, "Respectfully welcome Elder back to the sect." Seeing this, Mehua Popo put the waste token back into her storage ring and said to Zhuge Liang, "Let's go. Mr. Zhuge. I'll take you to see the Valley Master first." Zhuge Liang nodded and said, "As you wish." After speaking, the two flew towards the main peak of Ice God Valley. In Luan Hall, Valley Master Binglingyu of Ice God Valley had already received the news that Mehua Popo was returning to Ice God Valley with Zhuge Liang. Therefore, he had gathered the sect's high-ranking officials here to welcome them. Not long after, the figures of Zhuge Liang and Mehua Popo appeared in Luan Hall. Mehua Popo looked at Binglingyu, stepped forward, and bowed. "Greetings, Valley Master. Master Zhuge has been brought here." Hearing this, Binglingyu smiled and said, "Is this Master Zhuge?" Binglingyu looked at the handsome and refined Zhuge Liang with a face full of disbelief. This young man, who was at most in his early 50s, was actually a ninth-order formation master. One must know that a martial artist in the Deyuan realm could easily live for 1 or 2,000 years, a martial artist in the Void realm had a lifespan exceeding 10,000 years, and the martial god realm had almost reached the point of being immortal and indestructible. Some old martial god realm experts had already lived for hundreds of thousands of years. Therefore, 50-year-old Zhuge Liang was no different from a child in front of them. Even Binglingyu, who looked like he was only in his early 20s, had actually lived for 2,000 years. Before Zhuge Liang arrived, he had thought Zhuge Liang was an old monster several thousand years old. He didn't expect him to be so young. As a martial god realm expert, Binglingyu knew Zhuge Liang's bone age with a single glance, although Zhuge Liang looked no different from a 20-year-old young man. Zhuge Liang looked at Binglingyu, cupped his fists, and bowed. "Zhuge Liang greets Valley Master Bing." Binglingyu was a martial god realm expert, so Zhuge Liang did not dare to be presumptuous and could only salute respectfully. Binglingyu looked at Zhuge Liang and laughed heartily, "Ha ha. Mr. Zhuge, we are extremely grateful that you could agree to come to Ice God Valley to help us rebuild the arrays. Mr. Zhuge, feel free to state any requests you have. Our Ice God Valley will try our best to satisfy you. From today onwards, Mr. Zhuge and Great Tang are friends of our Ice God Valley." Hearing this, Zhuge Liang cupped his fists and said, "Then this junior will first thank the Valley Master on behalf of Great Tang." The friendship of Ice God Valley was a double-edged sword. If used well, it could bring great benefits; if not used well, it would be equivalent to inviting trouble upon oneself. Because the current Ice God Valley truly wasn't much in front of the Array Formation Alliance. Binglingyu looked at Mehua Popo and said, "Why didn't I see Yu Yan return with you?" Hearing this, Mehua Popo stepped forward and said, reporting to the Valley Master. "Miss is currently traveling within Great Tang and will return in a few days." Everyone present was intelligent and knew what Mehua Popo's words meant. Elder Tianxing, who was in charge of punishments on the side, immediately became displeased upon hearing this. The dignified young master of Ice God Valley was actually being held hostage by a small dynasty. He couldn't do anything about Zhuge Liang, but Mehua Popo became the scapegoat, because Mehua Popo was indeed severely negligent in this matter. Elder Tianxing angrily said, "Absurd. Mehua Popo, what is your crime? Leaving the young master alone in Great Tang, if anything happens, can you bear the responsibility?" Hearing this, Mehua Popo immediately knelt on the ground. Although she was also an elder of Ice God Valley, she was only an elder in the Void realm. Elder Tianxing was a martial god realm expert, and his status was immeasurably higher than hers. Therefore, before Elder Tianxing, she had no power to resist and could only be at his mercy. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 95, The Might of the Martial God Realm. Elder Tianxing looked at Mehua Popo, who was kneeling on the ground, and said coldly, "Someone, drag her away. Execute her by fire." Bing Yuyan is currently the only disciple in Ice God Valley with a special physique. It is no exaggeration to say that Bing Yuyan is the future of Ice God Valley. In the battle back then, the old Valley Master, relying on his special physique, managed to take 4 Array Formation Masters of the Martial God Realm down with him. One must know that once an Array Formation Master unleashes their full power, the destructive force is terrifying. An Array Formation Master can simultaneously hold back over a dozen Martial God Realm experts, showing how powerful they are. Yet, The old Valley Master was able to take 4 array formation masters of the same level down with him, which demonstrates the terrifying nature of a special physique. Furthermore, even now, only Bing Lingyu and his daughter in Ice God Valley possess a special physique. Coupled with the fact that the higher a martial artist's cultivation, the lower the probability of having children, the importance of Bing Yuyan is self-evident. Moreover, the array formation alliance is the most difficult existence among the 4 super first-class forces. After all, they can set up a super large killing array with a mere gesture. If someone who doesn't know their place provokes them, those array formation masters might just show up at your doorstep to block the entrance one day. Bing Lingyu looked at Tianxing and said, "All right. Elder Tianxing. Don't blame her anymore. Yu Yan is fine staying there." Since Great Tang dares to let Yu Yan stay there, it proves that they are confident in ensuring Yu Yan's safety. Otherwise, the consequences are something they cannot bear. Bing Lingyu is a shrewd person. He originally wanted to win over Qin Tian through Bing Yuyan. After all, Qin Tian has so many special physiques around him. If the two of them were to combine, wouldn't those special physiques also belong to Ice God Valley in a sense? Therefore, having understood this point, Bing Lingyu was not only not angry about this matter, but was even extremely gauching. After all, he is extremely confident in his daughter's charm. They are both young people, and spending time together will naturally lead to them being attracted to each other. In the future, he will definitely pass the position of Valley Master to Bing Yuyan. So, as long as the two combine, the benefits Ice God Valley will receive are absolutely unimaginable. Qin Tian, as of now, is definitely a stock with great potential. If things go well, in the near future, it will be an opportunity for their Ice God Valley to rise again. Zhuge Liang looked at Bing Lingyu, stepped forward, and said, "Valley Master Bing. You don't need to worry about Miss Bing Yuyan's safety. As long as martial God realm experts don't make a move, then no matter how many people come, they will not endanger your beloved daughter's safety. You can rest assured on this point." Bing Lingyu heard this, a smile curved at the corner of his mouth, and he laughed, "Ha. Of course, I believe in Great Tang. However, your Great Tang Emperor seems not to trust me very much. But, it's understandable. Then, Mr. Zhuge, do you have any requests?" Zhuge Liang heard this and cupped his fists, saying, "Valley Master Bing. I need to survey the spiritual veins and land veins of Ice God Valley so that I can better construct the array formations." Bing Lingyu said, "Mr. Zhuge. You just arrived. Why don't you rest for a few days first?" "No. Valley Master Bing. Entrusted by others, loyal to their affairs. Great Tang still has official duties waiting for me to handle. Therefore, everything else will be kept simple." Bing Lingyu heard this, stood up, looked at Zhuge Liang, and said, "Good. This is the distribution map of our Ice God Valley's underground and spiritual veins. Mehua Popo. Valley Master. I will give this map to you. You will take Mr. Zhuge to survey the terrain." "Yes." Mehua Popo took the terrain map and stood to the side, waiting. Zhuge Liang saw this and also cupped his fists, saying, "Then, Valley Master Bing. We will go and start preparing first." Bing Lingyu looked at Zhuge Liang and smiled, saying, "Go. After the matter is completed, our Ice God Valley will definitely have a generous gift." As Zhuge Liang and the other person retreated, Elder Tianxiang walked to Bing Lingyu's side and said, "Valley Master. Are you really that optimistic about this Great Tang? They are just a newly promoted dynasty. Even with the assistance of a Ninth Order Formation Master, Great Tang is just an ant in front of our Ice God Valley." Bing Lingyu heard this and smiled, saying, "Elder Tianxing. This time, you have misjudged. Just wait. This continent will definitely cause a stir in the near future." Elder Tianxing heard this, and his curiosity about Great Tang grew even stronger. A thought of going to Great Tang to find out the truth couldn't help but arise in his heart. Bing Lingyu saw through Elder Tianxing's thoughts and smiled, saying, "Elder Tianxing. Please don't think about going to Great Tang to find out the truth. What they need now is time. If you go, it will attract the attention of all parties, which will be a huge disaster for them. Moreover, I have a premonition that Ice God Valley will rise again because of Great Tang in the future, and even go up another level. Look, isn't Ice God Valley starting to get better now?" Elder Tianxing was silent for a moment after hearing this, then immediately widened his eyes and looked at Bing Lingyu, saying, "Valley Master. Are you saying that the weapons that have recently appeared among the beastmen are from Great Tang? Bingling Yu heard this and smiled, saying, hee hee. Great Tang has a ninth order formation master, so why can't they have a ninth order artifact forger? Elder Tianxing swallowed his saliva and said, their appetite is too big. Recently, the three great empires have been in a complete mess because of this matter. They have sent out many experts, but they are completely at a loss. Now, the beastmen have many more weapons in their hands. It seems they have also made a lot of money. Bingling Yu looked at Elder Tianxing and said, we must keep this matter to ourselves. The future of our Ice God Valley rests on Great Tang. Tell the elders, I don't want anyone to spread what happened today, otherwise. Elder Tianxing looked at the surrounding air instantly turn cold, and a huge wave of shock couldn't help but surge in his heart. He didn't expect that the usually amiable Valley Master would burst out with such intense killing intent, and judging by the aura, Bingling Yu seemed to have improved quite a bit. Elder Tianxing saw this and hurriedly cupped his fists, saying, congratulations, Valley Master, on making further progress. Don't worry, no outsider will know about this matter. After Elder Tianxing finished speaking, he retreated. Bingling Yu looked at the snowflakes constantly falling from the sky and murmured, Great Tang. Interesting. I hope you grow up quickly. Otherwise, there isn't much time left. After Bingling Yu finished speaking, his entire body turned into snowflakes and scattered on the spot. Zhuge Liang, holding the vein map, followed Mehua Popo to the back mountain of Ice God Valley. Zhuge Liang was shocked by the scene before him because a chasm tens of thousands of feet deep suddenly appeared in the back mountain of Ice God Valley. The valley in front of him looked as if it had been forcefully dug out, and with the falling snowflakes, it appeared exceptionally desolate and beautiful. Mehua Popo looked at the shocked Zhuge Liang, stepped forward, and said, it's beautiful, isn't it? This is where the battlefield of that battle back then was located. 1,000 years ago, when I first entered Ice God Valley, I was also shocked by this scene. This is the might of the martial god realm. Chapter 96 Zhuge Liang returns. Zhuge Liang looked at the sky full of flying snow and murmured, yes. It's beautiful. Unbelievably beautiful. It's hard to imagine that this snowfield, stretching for hundreds of thousands of miles, was caused by a great battle between martial god realm martial artists. As expected, those who haven't reached martial god are ultimately ants. Mehua Popo looked at Zhuge Liang and sighed, alas. Old me has no hope of reaching martial god in this lifetime. After Mehua Popo finished speaking, she stretched out her hand and caught a falling snowflake. Zhuge Liang looked at the dejected Mehua Popo and did not speak. Alright, let's begin. Old me is getting old. I just like to ramble, Mr. Zhuge, please feel free. Upon hearing this, Zhuge Liang didn't waste any time and began to prepare. After opening the pulse map, Zhuge Liang looked at the distribution of spiritual veins on it and almost bit off his own tongue. Because upon opening the pulse map, he saw 13 supreme-grade spiritual veins, and there were hundreds of high-grade spiritual veins. Zhuge Liang swallowed and said, this Ice God Valley is indeed a 10,000-year-old great sect. Their foundation is truly solid. Mehua Popo heard this and smiled, if Mr. Zhuge is willing to join Ice God Valley, then Valley Master will definitely be willing to give a few supreme-grade spiritual veins to Mr. after she knows. Zhuge Liang heard this and smiled, that won't be necessary. Mehua Popo looked at Zhuge Liang, who quickly stabilized his mind, and couldn't help but secretly marvel at Zhuge Liang's strong willpower. One must know that a supreme-grade spiritual vein can produce 20 divine crystals and hundreds of millions of supreme-grade spirit stones every year. And the cultivation of the martial god realm is inseparable from divine crystals. If there are no divine crystals, a martial artist in the martial god realm who has exhausted the divine power in their body might take several hundred years to recover. Cultivation in the martial god realm is already extremely difficult. It is simply a fantasy for other cultivators to reach the martial god realm without the support of major powers using divine crystals. And these dozen or so supreme-grade spiritual veins are also the foundation for Ice God Valley to stand for 10,000 years. Once the spiritual veins are damaged, the strength of Ice God Valley will also be greatly diminished. Therefore, there are many martial artists in the Banshan realm on the Tianshuan continent, but among 10,000 Banshan, perhaps not even one can break through to the divine realm. Thus, every Banshan realm martial artist desperately desires to join a first-grade force, because only first-grade forces control supreme-grade spiritual veins. Among the human clan forces, only a few dynasties possess supreme-grade spiritual veins. The rest of the supreme-grade spiritual veins are controlled by the three great empires and various major forces. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed. After Zhuge Liang threw down the last formation disc, the spiritual energy between heaven and earth began to riot, and countless spiritual energy frantically converged towards Ice God Valley. Due to the terrifying power of the spirit-gathering Great Formation, the spiritual energy within a radius of several thousand miles around Ice God Valley was completely absorbed. Countless Ice God Valley disciples and elders who were in seclusion were startled by this sudden movement. The location of Ice God Valley was already a treasure land. Even without the spirit-gathering formation, the spiritual energy concentration within the sect was not inferior to that of ordinary second-grade forces. At this moment, with the enhancement of the spirit-gathering Great Formation, the spiritual energy within the valley was almost liquefying. Countless disciples sensed the change in spiritual energy and began to sit cross-legged one after another. Bingling Yu's figure appeared above Ice God Valley, looking at many disciples who were still standing in a daze. Bingling Yu circulated his spiritual energy and said, "All disciples, begin cultivating where you are. The spiritual energy tide will only last for a few days. Seize this opportunity to cultivate." As Bingling Yu's words fell, those stunned Ice God Valley disciples all began to cultivate cross-legged. Looking at the disciples below who had started cultivating, Bingling Yu nodded with satisfaction. Immediately after, Bingling Yu flashed and appeared before Zhuge Liang. Zhuge Liang looked at the sudden appearance of Bingling Yu and said, "Valley Master Bing. I have not failed in my mission. Your sect's great formations have all been completed." Bingling Yu looked at Zhuge Liang and laughed heartily. "Thank you, Mr., for saving my Ice God Valley. In the future, whatever requests Mr. has, my Ice God Valley will go all out." Zhuge Liang heard this and cupped his fists. "Valley Master Bing. Liang is only fulfilling a task entrusted to him by others. Now that your sect's formations are completed, it is time to return to Great Tang." Bingling Yu heard this and smiled. "Since Mr. Zhuge is eager to return, I won't force you to stay." After speaking, Bingling Yu handed over a storage ring. Zhuge Liang took the storage ring and cupped his fists. Then Liang thanks Valley Master Bing. Bingling Yu looked at Meihua Popo and said, "Elder Meihua, you see Mr. Zhuge off." Meihua Popo heard this and cupped her fists. "Yes. Valley Master." After Meihua Popo finished speaking, she pushed with both hands and a spatial wormhole appeared before Zhuge Liang. Zhuge Liang looked at the appearing wormhole, turned around, and cupped his fists. "Valley Master Bing. Liang takes his leave." After Zhuge Liang finished speaking, he and Meihua Popo disappeared into the wormhole. Just as Zhuge Liang's figure disappeared, Elder Tianxing's figure appeared beside Bingling Yu. "Elder Tianxing. I am becoming more and more excited about the growing Great Tang. Valley Master. Zhuge Liang is a man of firm character." Elder Meihua tried to tempt him with supreme-grade spiritual veins, but he was unmoved. "Even I might not be able to resist that temptation. I am also starting to become interested in this Great Tang. I am very curious about what kind of person this Great Tang Emperor is, to be able to gather such outstanding individuals." Bingling Yu heard this and smiled. "It's not just you, even I am very curious. However, now they need a quiet environment to grow, and all we can do is provide them with some assistance at the appropriate time." Half a month later, Zhuge Liang's figure appeared before the Great Tang imperial capital. At this time, in the imperial palace, Qin Tian was wearing a green robe and was lying lazily on a reclining chair. After these few months of getting along, the relationship between the two had successfully developed into a friendship. After this period of time together, Bing Yuyan found that Qin Tian didn't cultivate a single day. Every day he just ate, slept, and ate. Bing Yuyan couldn't see at all that Qin Tian was a cultivator. And Bing Yuyan became increasingly curious about Qin Tian, because in her perception, Qin Tian was a complete and utter ordinary person. But Bing Yuyan would never believe that Qin Tian was an ordinary person, because if Qin Tian As an ordinary person, could command so many proud and fierce generals, she wouldn't dare to believe it even if she were beaten to death. There was only one reason why she couldn't see through Qin Tian's true strength, and that was the gap between her and Qin Tian was too large, the kind that was despair-inducing. For the first time, Bing Yuyan felt a sense of frustration in front of a peer. Looking at the lazy Qin Tian, Bing Yuyan was so angry that she kicked Qin Tian directly off the chair. Looking at Qin Tian rolling off the chair, the maidservants nearby couldn't help but cover their mouths and laugh, because this scene had happened several times in the past few months, so the maidservants were already used to it. Qin Tian grimaced and looked at Bing Yuyan angrily. "Daji. What's wrong with you again?" After Qin Tian transmigrated to this world, everyone was respectful to him, and he didn't have a single friend by his side. This feeling was very painful. But after these few months of getting along, Qin Tian found the feeling of being with friends from his previous life in Bing Yuyan. And after these few months of getting along, Bing Yuyan had also become less cold than before, and there were more smiles on her face. Chapter 97. Secret Realm appears. Bing Yuyan looked at Qin Tian, who was speechless, and coldly snorted, "HMPH. Nothing. I just suddenly felt like kicking you." Qin Tian looked at Bing Yuyan, who had turned her face away, and instantly felt his teeth itch with anger. Qin Tian climbed back onto the reclining chair and looked at Bing Yuyan, saying, "It's already been a few months. Zhuge Liang and the others should be starting to come back. When are you planning to go back? Why? Starting to find me annoying? That's not it. It's just that you're a girl, and staying in my imperial palace all the time, it wouldn't be good for your reputation if word got out." Qin Tian wasn't joking. The customs on the Tianshuan continent were similar to ancient China. For an unmarried woman like Bing Yuyan to stay in the imperial palace like this, it would inevitably affect her reputation. Bing Yuyan heard this, cupped her chin, looked at Qin Tian, and said, "What? Now you know that staying in the imperial palace will affect my reputation. What were you doing before?" Qin Tian laughed when he heard this. "Wasn't that to ensure your safety? If something happened to you while you were staying outside the palace, our great Tang couldn't bear the wrath of your old father." Just as Qin Tian and Bing Yuyan were arguing, Cao Zhengchun ran to Qin Tian's side and bowed, "Your Majesty. Lord Zhuge has returned. Lord Zhuge is waiting at the entrance now." Qin Tian was first stunned, then laughed. "This is truly speaking of Cao Cao, and Cao Cao arrives. Announce them to come in." Yes. Not long after, Zhuge Liang's figure appeared beside Qin Tian. "Your subject greets your Majesty." Qin Tian looked at Zhuge Liang, who was kneeling, and said, "Get up. Why are you kneeling? I've already told you that you don't need to kneel every time you see me." "Is the matter handled?" Zhuge Liang stood up and said, "Reporting to your Majesty. All the great formations within Ice God Valley have been repaired by your subject. This is the reward from Ice God Valley." Qin Tian looked at the storage ring that Zhuge Liang handed over without even lifting his eyelids and said, "The great formations of Ice God Valley were personally constructed by you. You can keep the reward you received. What is yours is yours." Qin Tian wasn't interested in Zhuge Liang's reward this time. It was true that Zhuge Liang and the others were summoned by Qin Tian, but they were also living people. Anyone who is a person has 7 emotions and 6 desires. For the development of the Great Tang, Qin Tian did not expose their identities. To a certain extent, they had already sacrificed a lot for the Great Tang. Yes. Qin Tian looked at Zhuge Liang and continued, "You worked hard going to Ice God Valley this time. You should go back and rest first." Zhuge Liang cupped his fist and said, "Your subject takes his leave." After Zhuge Liang left, Meihua Popo's figure also appeared before Qin Tian. "This old woman greets your Majesty. No need for formalities." After Qin Tian finished speaking, he looked at Bing Yuyan again and said, "All right, now Meihua Popo has also returned, you can leave. With a living bodhisattva like you staying in my imperial palace, I still have to worry about your safety. After you leave, I can finally sleep well." After Qin Tian finished speaking, he didn't forget to stretch. Bing Yuyan looked at Qin Tian, feeling extremely annoyed, but in a blink of an eye, the corner of her mouth curved up slightly. Bing Yuyan looked at Qin Tian and smiled, "Why should I leave? There are such delicious spiritual foods in your imperial palace. I'm staying very comfortably. Now I don't want to leave." Qin Tian immediately jumped up when he heard this and said, No, wait, are you planning to freeload off me? No way. No way. If you stay here for free, won't I suffer a huge loss? HMPH. I'm telling you. This granny is not leaving today. Meihua Popo looked at Bing Yuyan, who was arguing with Qin Tian, and was instantly shocked. She found that after several months of getting along, Bing Yuyan had become different from before, her personality had become much more cheerful. In the past, Bing Yuyan was serious even in front of Bing Lingyu, but now Bing Yuyan could actually argue with Qin Tian. This scene almost made Meihua Popo, who had been with Bing Yuyan for more than 20 years, drop her jaw in surprise. Just as the two were arguing, Cao Zhengchun walked in. Your Majesty. Lord Lu Bowen requests an audience in the imperial study. Qin Tian also stopped arguing with Bing Yuyan when he heard this. He knew that Lu Bowen requesting to see him in the imperial study meant that he had encountered something he couldn't decide on. Qin Tian looked at Bing Yuyan and said, well, I have something to attend to. It's also not appropriate for you to live in the imperial palace all the time. Prince Qi's mansion in Kyoto is currently empty. If you don't want to go back, you can move there. If you want to come into the palace to find me to play, you can come in anytime. Someone will take you to Prince Qi's mansion later. I'll excuse myself first. Go ahead. Looking at Qin Tian's retreating figure, Meihua Popo walked to Bing Yuyan's side and said, Miss, do you really want to choose him? Bing Yuyan's pretty face blushed when she heard this, and she lowered her head and said, Meihua Popo. He is the first person I have met that I don't dislike. In the imperial study, Qin Tian looked at Lu Bowen, who was sitting to the side, and said, what's the matter? Just say it directly. Lu Bowen stood up and cupped his fist, Your Majesty. The day before yesterday, while sorting out the dragon vein Qi, your subject discovered a secret realm that appeared out of thin air. There is an extremely powerful restriction at the entrance of that secret realm. Your subject couldn't decide for a moment, so I came to ask for Your Majesty's instructions. Your Majesty. The strength of that restriction is very great, so your subject believes that Your Majesty should mobilize all the elites of the Great Tang to investigate. Qin Tian immediately stood up when he heard this and said, where is that secret realm? Lu Bowen cupped his fist and said, it's right below Baochen Mountain. Baochen Mountain stands in the Qilian Mountains about 200 li away from Kyoto, and Baochen Mountain is the main peak of the Qilian Mountains. Qin Tian was silent for a while, then looked at Lu Bowen and said, do you think we have the ability to take down this suddenly appearing secret realm with our strength? Qin Tian was no longer a novice in the cultivation world. He knew the preciousness of a secret realm. Every time a secret realm was opened, it would cause a great commotion, and every time a secret realm appeared, it meant bloodshed. Because there were countless rare treasures in the secret realm, a martial artist once found a spiritual fruit in a secret realm, and after taking it, directly broke through from the void realm to the martial god realm. Therefore, whenever a secret realm appeared, martial artists from the entire continent would be attracted. In a newly opened secret realm, thousand-year spiritual herbs could be seen everywhere, and there was no lack of 10,000-year spiritual items among them. Therefore, when facing a secret realm, even some 10,000-year-old monsters would be tempted, so with the current strength of the Great Tang, there was no way to swallow this secret realm. A single secret realm is enough to allow a second-grade power to grow into a first-grade power. Moreover, once it is opened, the Great Tang will definitely become the focus of the entire Tianshuan continent, because no secret realm has appeared on the Tianshuan continent for several hundred years. Chapter 98. 99 Sky Obscuring Grand Formation. Lu Bowen looked at Qin Tian and said, Your Majesty. Your subject believes it is best to first control the entire Qilian Mountains, otherwise, it would be bad if other forces discovered it. Alright. Pass down the order. Order. Command Guan Yu, Zhao Yun, Gao Shun, Lu Biyu, Bai Qi, Li Kunshao, and Meng Tian to lead their troops to Baochen Mountain and station them at the foot of the mountain. Someone. Cao Zhengchun. This old servant is here. Pass down the order. Command Zhuge Liang and Zhang Han to immediately enter the palace to see Your Majesty. The brocade guard are to be dispatched immediately. Take control of the entrance down Baochen Mountain. Those who trespass will be executed. Yes. Not long after, Zhuge Liang and Zhang Han arrived before Qin Tian. Your subject. Greetings, Your Majesty. Dispense with the formalities. Zhuge Liang looked at Qin Tian and said, May your subject ask why your majesty urgently summoned your subject to the palace. Qin Tian looked at Zhuge Liang and said, a secret realm has appeared in Baochen Mountain. This matter is of great importance, so your majesty commands you to depart immediately and accompany your majesty and Lu Bowen to Baochen Mountain to investigate. Yes. Zhang Han. Zhang Han heard this and stepped forward, saying, your subject is here. Your majesty commands you to keep a close eye on Mehua Popo in the Prince Chi's mansion. Immediately notify your majesty if she makes any unusual moves. Your majesty will leave Shu Chu and Dian Wei behind to assist you. Yes. The rest of you are to depart immediately and accompany your majesty to Baochen Mountain. Yes. With the issuance of Qin Tian's commands, the long-dormant Great Tang rapidly began to operate. Lu Bu and his party quickly led their troops towards Baochen Mountain. In front of Baochen Mountain, countless brocade guard were vigilantly looking around. Qin Tian stood in the air, looking at the towering Baochen Mountain that reached into the clouds, and said in a deep voice, is this Baochen Mountain? Lu Bowen cupped his fist and said, yes. Your Majesty. Where is the cave abode? It's in a cave on the mountainside. Your Majesty, please follow your subject. Led by Lu Bowen, Qin Tian and his party arrived inside the cave. Qin Tian looked at the huge stone door and said, is this secret realm behind this stone door? Yes. Your Majesty. Qin Tian nodded upon hearing this and said, Zhuge Liang, do you have any way to shield the heaven and earth vibrations caused when the secret realm opens? Zhuge Liang stepped forward, cupped his fist, and said, reporting to your majesty. Your subject can set up the 9-9 sky obscuring grand formation. This formation can block the heavenly secrets. Furthermore, the area below Baochen Mountain happens to be a place where dragon veins converge, so your subject can conveniently use the 9 dragon veins here to set up the grand formation. Moreover, your subject observes that Baochen Mountain is located in the hinterland of the Qilian Mountains, its geographical location is relatively hidden, and the spiritual energy is abundant. We can designate the area within several hundred li of Baochen Mountain as a restricted zone, and stationing our army here can also serve as a cover. When the secret realm opens, it will inevitably cause spiritual energy to leak out. At that time, your subject will set up a spirit gathering formation. As for the later perfection of other formations, your majesty can transfer personnel from West Liang to assist General Bai in completing it. As for mobilizing the dragon veins, your subject will also need Lord Lu's assistance. Qin Tian nodded and said, good. Then how long will it take you to set up this 9-9 sky obscuring grand formation? Reporting to your majesty. Give your subject 6 hours, and the 9-9 sky obscuring grand formation can be completed. Zhuge Liang's current strength is only at the Diyuan realm. Wanting to set up a 9th order grand formation without using a formation plate is indeed somewhat difficult in terms of strength. A formation plate is a consumable item with extremely high production costs. Zhuge Liang generally wouldn't use one if it could be avoided. Alright. Your majesty will give you 6 hours. Where are Bai Qi and the others? Cao Zhengchun heard this and stepped forward, saying, reporting to your majesty. According to the marching speed of the generals, they should be arriving at Baochen Mountain soon. Order them to speed up their march. The brocade guard sentries are to extend outwards 600 li. Yes. Zhuge Liang. Your subject is here. Your majesty commands you to start preparing immediately. Just say whatever you need. Yes. Pass on your majesty's decree. Immediately transfer 300 array formation masters from West Liang to come to Baochen Mountain. Your subject. Your majesty. Outside Baochen Mountain, as Zhuge Liang waved his hand, thousands of formation pieces flew out from his hand, and the prototype of the 9-9 sky obscuring grand formation gradually took shape. Zhuge Liang continuously threw out formation flags from his hand while chanting incantations. Qin Tian looked at the formation flags fixed in the void, faintly feeling that he had lost contact with the outside world. 3 hours later, Zhuge Liang finally finished placing all the required formation pieces. Lord Lu, lend me a hand. As Zhuge Liang's voice came, Lu Bowen flew into the air and said, Lord Zhuge, what do you need me to do? Lord Lu, you just need to awaken the 9 dragon veins underground, and leave the rest to me. A piece of cake. Watch me. As Lu Bowen held his hands up, the ground immediately began to shake violently. Roar. As a dragon roar sounded, the earth began to tremble. Mountain birds within 100 li radius were startled and scattered, and countless beasts began to flee in panic. Qin Tian, who was connected to the dragon vein qi, could sense that the dragon veins were gradually awakening. As the earth began to calm down, 9 earthy yellow giant dragons appeared above Baochen Mountain. Zhuge Liang looked at the earth dragons formed by the 9 dragon veins, waved his hands, sending out 9 formation pieces, which were fixed onto the foreheads of the 9 earth dragons. Immediately after, Zhuge Liang extended his hands, and the formation pieces that had been set up earlier began to emit golden light. Boom! As loud noises sounded, dozens of crisscrossing ravines appeared on the ground. Zhuge Liang waved his hand, and countless supreme-grade spirit stones flew towards the formed ravines. Immediately after, Zhuge Liang clasped his hands together, and the ravines that had appeared on the ground began to close up again. Lord Lu, you can bring the dragons back to their positions. Lu Bowen said, no problem. Immediately after, Lu Bowen spread his hands, and the figures of the 9 dragon vein dragons on Baochen Mountain began to gradually disappear. Seeing this, Zhuge Liang took out 9 formation pieces that were several sizes larger than the previous ones. Zhuge Liang looked at the 9 formation pieces before him and shouted, formation. Following Zhuge Liang's fierce shout, the 9 formation pieces, each as tall as a person, flew directly towards 9 directions and were fixed in the void. Merge. Following Zhuge Liang's loud shout, tens of thousands of formation pieces in the sky emitted white light. When the white light dissipated, the formation flags that were originally fixed in the void disappeared into the air. Zhuge Liang looked at the disappeared formation flags, let out a long sigh, and then flew to Qin Tian's front, cupping his fist and saying, Your Majesty. The 9-9 sky obscuring grand formation has been set up. Qin Tian looked at the pale-faced Zhuge Liang and nodded, saying, My dear Minister Zhuge, you have worked hard. Rest and recover first. After you recover, we will open this secret realm. Yes. Just as Zhuge Liang was recovering his spiritual energy, Bai Qi led several martial generals to Qin Tian's front. Your subjects greet your majesty. Qin Tian looked at the several martial generals kneeling halfway and nodded, saying, Rise. Presumably, you all know what happened here. Your majesty will not explain it one by one. Now, your majesty commands you to immediately begin preparing to clear the area within a 50-li radius. From now on, this will be your station. Yes. Chapter 99. The demonic cave appears. As Qin Tian gave the command, hundreds of thousands of soldiers began clearing trees and rubble within a 50-mile radius. Currently, the average cultivation level of Qin Tian's elite troops has reached the peak of the Grandmaster realm. Since the Great Tang's destiny and spiritual energy surged, the cultivation speed of Qin Tian's subordinates has drastically increased. Originally, several Dan Yuan realm experts also appeared within the Great Tang's Zhongren residence and Tai Temple. Since being dealt with by Qin Tian, the Zhongren residence and Tai Temple have become much more well-behaved. What gives Qin Tian the biggest headache now is the Black Dragon Army, because although the Black Dragon Army has a large number of people, their cultivation level is truly too low. With an average cultivation level still in the innate realm, the gap is truly too large compared to the other several elite troops. Zhang Heng, the main general of the Black Dragon Army, just recently broke through to the Dan Yuan realm. He still has a long way to go before he can bear great responsibility, which is also why Qin Tian did not transfer the Black Dragon Army to Baochen Mountain. 3 hours later, Bai Qi walked up to Qin Tian and cupped his fist, saying, Reporting to your majesty. The 50-mile radius in front of Baochen Mountain has been completely leveled. Qin Tian nodded upon hearing this and said, Your majesty knows. Set up camp right here. Yes. Qin Tian watched as the originally uneven ground in front of Baochen Mountain was completely leveled, and even the ground was raised by a full 3 meters. Some troublesome small hills were also blasted apart by Lu Biyu and others. Cao Zhengchun walked up to Qin Tian and bowed, saying, Your Majesty. The array formation masters you transferred from West Liang have arrived. Would you like to receive them? Qin Tian waved his hand upon hearing this and said, No need. Just let them start constructing the array formation right there. The sooner this is done, the sooner your majesty can rest assured. Yes. This humble servant understands. Watching Cao Zhengchun's retreating figure, Qin Tian couldn't help but let out a long sigh. The Great Tang now was not like before. He had made such a huge commotion here. It would be bad if people from the Tianquan auction house or the Array Formation Alliance found out. The Great Tang cannot appear before the world too early now. What Qin Tian currently needs is stable development. The interests involved with the beastmen are truly too great. If people from the three great empires were to have even a sliver of suspicion, then there's no need to think about it. The Great Tang would absolutely be directly wiped out by the people of the three great empires. This is not alarmist talk. The Great Tang's population of over 100 billion is no different from over 100 billion ants in front of the three great empires. In terms of the Great Tang's current strength, it is at most a county-level unit in front of the three great empires. From this, one can see how powerful the three great empires are. Before long, Zhuge Liang had recovered his state to its peak. Qin Tian looked at the rising sun on the horizon and said, "Lu Bowen. Your subject is here. Open the secret realm." Yes. As Lu Bowen walked to the door and placed his hand on the stone door, immediately, a surge of spiritual power gushed out from within Lu Bowen's body. Qin Tian looked at Lu Bowen, who was opening the secret realm, and said, "Zhuge Liang, can your 9-9 sky-obscuring grand formation withstand the probing of martial god realm martial artists? Reporting to your majesty. Although your subject's 9-9 sky-obscuring grand formation has no offensive power, its ability to conceal heavenly secrets is beyond doubt. Your subject is confident that no one on this Tianquan continent can probe the situation at Baochen Mountain." Qin Tian nodded and said, "That's good." Half an hour later, as the surrounding air vibrated, the originally tightly shut stone door slowly opened. "Your Majesty. The secret realm is open." Qin Tian immediately became excited upon hearing this, because he was very curious about this so-called secret realm. After all, in his previous life, Qin Tian had read so many fantasy novels that described the abundance of resources in secret realms. And now, Qin Tian actually had the chance to exclusively possess a secret realm. This was a great opportunity. However, as the stone door opened, the imagined phenomenon of spiritual energy gushing out did not occur. Qin Tian was also endlessly curious upon seeing this, as it clearly violated common sense. Moreover, in the world of cultivation, if something is abnormal, there must be a reason. Therefore, based on Qin Tian's many years of experience reading fantasy novels, the things inside this secret realm were definitely not good things. Maybe this secret realm was a trap set by some evil cultivator, just waiting for Qin Tian and his group to enter so they could drain their essence blood or seize their bodies. Moreover, intruding into a secret realm that clearly exuded a strange aura was not a good thing for the current Qin Tian. As for sending people in to investigate, that was even less of a thought. What if they accidentally triggered some restriction and released a sealed great devil inside? That would be a huge problem. So, after much deliberation, Qin Tian still decided to seal the secret realm in front of him. As for exploring the secret realm, that was not even worth thinking about. Wasn't it better to play it safe? When all the martial generals under him grew up, wouldn't he, Qin Tian, be awesome? Currently, Qin Tian was still in the early stage of development, so he absolutely could not be reckless, he had to play it safe. Just as Qin Tian was preparing to make up his mind to close the secret realm, the system's voice, after a long absence, rang out in Qin Tian's mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for discovering a demon cave. Ding! Congratulations to the host for triggering a side quest. Clear the demon cave. Ding! Detected by the system. The host has opened the demon cave, upgrading the exchange system. Ding! Exchange system upgrade successful. Ding! Magic soul exchange interface opened. Ding! Demon blood exchange interface opened. Quest description. Demon cave appears. Please clear the demon cave as soon as possible. Time limit. 3 years. Qin Tian was very shocked by the sudden appearance of the system. After all, the system hadn't appeared for a long time. Qin Tian had thought that the system wouldn't issue quests until he established a dynasty. He didn't expect that just opening a demon cave would make the system issue a quest. Moreover, it was accompanied by the upgrade of the exchange system. This matter, from beginning to end, exuded an aura that this demon cave would not be easy to handle. This immediately put Qin Tian in a dilemma. After all, a demon cave that could even trigger a system-side quest must be difficult to deal with. However, Qin Tian was also very tempted by the rewards given by the system. After all, the things the system rewarded each time were good things. This put Qin Tian in a dilemma for a moment. After a fierce internal struggle, Qin Tian finally gritted his teeth, stomped his foot, and decided to go for it. What's the worst that could happen? Having made up his mind, Qin Tian looked at the several martial generals and said, Bai Qi, Lu Biyu, heed my command. Bai Qi and Lu Biyu stepped forward upon hearing this and cupped their fists, saying, Your general is here. Qin Tian looked at the two and said, Your Majesty commands you two to enter the demon cave with your Majesty. Yes. Upon hearing this, Bai Qi raised his head and looked at Qin Tian, saying, Your Majesty. What is this demon cave? Qin Tian looked at the stone door in front of him upon hearing this and said in a deep voice, Behind this stone door in front of us is the demon cave. My dear subjects, follow your Majesty and flatten this demon cave together. Yes. Chapter 100. The demonic cave awakens. Just as Qin Tian looked at Cao Zhengchun and said, Cao Zhengchun. Hearing this, Cao Zhengchun stepped forward and said, This humble servant is here. Issue your Majesty's command. Order the Black Dragon Army to dispatch 300,000 troops to station in front of Baochen Mountain. Yes. Zhao Yun, Guan Yu, Gao Shun, Li Kunshao, heed the order. Your general is here. Your Majesty orders you to immediately gather the great army. Await your Majesty's decree. Yes. After Qin Tian finished speaking, he led Lu Biyu and Bai Qi and stepped through the great door of the demon cave. At the same time, inside the demon clan's encampment within the demon cave, a pair of scarlet giant eyes suddenly opened. Immediately after, a black figure, 13 meters tall, emerged from the darkness. When the figure completely walked out of the darkness, it revealed a green face with fangs, a pair of huge black wings on its back, and a dark metallic sheen all over its body. The forbidden great door has finally opened. My demon clan has been dormant for hundreds of thousands of years, and now the day of my demon clan's arrival is fast approaching. The wonderful taste of the human clan's flesh and blood has been missed for hundreds of thousands of years. It still leaves me with an endless aftertaste. Gurgle gurgle. Come forth. Issue the summoning order. Awaken all the forces of the 6 great demon clans to assemble. Bathe the human clan in blood. Yes. Celestial Demon Lord. Following the celestial demon's command, countless demon clans slumbering underground broke through the earth and flew towards the sky. At the same time, 5 terrifying figures appeared in the demon cave, and the rest of the demon clan forces also began to assemble one after another. At this moment, the demon cave began to awaken. The environment inside the demon cave was completely different from the outside world. There was no sun in the sky, only a high-hanging red moon. Perhaps because there was no sun in the demon cave was filled with Gobi deserts everywhere, and a gentle breeze could stir up endless dust. Looking as far as the eye could see, there were also several volcanoes in the distance emitting black smoke, and fiery red magma was continuously flowing down the mountainsides, filling the air with the smell of sulfur. Qin Tian surveyed the environment of the demon cave and discovered a problem. Within the demon cave, with his Danyuan realm cultivation, he actually couldn't fly. Qin Tian looked at Bai Qi and said, Bai Qi. Lu Biyu. Have you noticed? Hearing this, Lu Biyu cupped his fists and said, Reporting to your Majesty. With your general's Diyuan realm strength, I also cannot fly in this demon cave. Your Majesty. With your general's void realm early stage cultivation, it is also difficult to fly. I can only barely stay suspended in the air. Furthermore, your general also discovered that your general's divine senses probing range is only a mere 10 li. Hearing this, Lu Biyu cupped his fists and said, Your general can probe 3 li. Hearing this, Qin Tian also tried to extend his divine sense, and found that his divine sense could only cover 2 li. An ordinary Danyuan realm martial artist coming here would probably not even have a coverage area of 500 meters. In the outside world, Qin Tian's divine sense could cover dozens of li, while a void realm's divine sense could cover hundreds of li. However, inside the demon cave, a martial artist's entire strength seemed to be suppressed. This was not good news for martial artists. Qin Tian tried using his own spiritual energy and found that inside the demon cave, his entire strength, except for his divine sense and inability to fly, was otherwise unaffected. Qin Tian decided to first understand the demon clan before entering the demon cave. After all, in a place where he couldn't fly and his divine sense was restricted, he couldn't act rashly. If something really happened, he wouldn't even be able to escape. Qin Tian immediately sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes. Seeing this, Lu Biyu and Bai Qi said nothing, but just quietly guarded by Qin Tian's side. Qin Tian's consciousness sank into his mind, severing contact with the outside world. Qin Tian was not worried about his own safety. With Lu Biyu and Bai Qi present, Qin Tian believed that even if there was danger, the two of them could at least wake him up. Wei Wei, come out for a bit. Ha! What are you doing? I'm sleeping. Give me the demon clan's information. Hearing this, Wei Wei said, oh, demon clan information. Here you go. Coming back to her senses, Wei Wei exclaimed, wait. What did you say? Demon clan. You encountered the demon clan. Hearing this, Qin Tian nodded and said, that's right. I'm in the demon cave right now. Stop talking nonsense. Quickly give me the demon clan's information. Hearing this, Wei Wei sighed, you're in the demon cave right now. Yes. Stop talking nonsense. Quickly give me the demon clan's information. Or you can just tell me about it. Hearing this, Wei Wei immediately exploded, angrily saying, the demon clan. That's the demon clan. Do you know what the demon clan is? Qin Tian said speechlessly, it's precisely because I don't know that I'm asking you. Hurry up. Give me the demon clan's information. The more detailed, the better. Hearing this, Wei Wei said in a deep voice, host, I must warn you. The demon clan is the most terrifying existence among the myriad realms of the heavens. Even the gods tremble before them. If you can avoid provoking the demon clan now, then don't provoke them. You are still very weak in front of the demon clan right now. Stop talking nonsense. The demon cave has appeared in Great Tang. Even if I don't provoke them, they will still destroy me. Quickly give me the demon clan's information. Oh, alright. 200,000 high-grade spiritual stones. No bargaining. Hearing this, Qin Tian's teeth felt sore, but he also knew that now was not the time to quibble over this, so he paid the money readily. Ding. Congratulations, host. Demon clan information successfully purchased. Transferring. Ding. Transfer successful. Host. Don't you die. I'm going back to sleep now. I need to continuously accumulate energy, so I must continue sleeping. I don't want you to die now. After all, I haven't transformed yet and haven't seen this colorful world. Hearing this, Qin Tian waved his hand and said, don't worry. I cherish my life more than anyone. I will definitely live until you transform. As Wei Wei's voice disappeared in his sea of consciousness, Qin Tian began to sort out the extra information in his mind. Qin Tian summarized the main information from it and found that the useful information for him right now was just these few points. The demon clan is divided into fire demon, power demon, shadow demon, succubus, blood demon, and celestial demon. The fire demon possesses the ability to control flames, and their innate demon flames will strengthen as their power increases. The power demon's physical body is incomparably strong, its physical strength is no less than that of the dragon clan. The power demon can directly clash with the dragon clan using its physical body, showing how powerful it is. The shadow demon is skilled in stealth and assassination, similar to the shadow guard. Every shadow demon is an expert in assassination. The succubus is different from the succubus Qin Tian previously knew. They are skilled in soul-type attacks. Their attack methods are virtually impossible to guard against, and one might be controlled by a succubus if not careful. It can be said that the succubus is the most terrifying existence among the demon clan. The blood demon primarily cultivates using blood. With the enhancement of blood, their combat power is extremely strong. Wherever the blood demon goes, the blood of all living creatures is completely drained. If other demon clans are existences that make the gods tremble, then the celestial demon is the gods' nightmare. This is because the celestial demon is the existence with the strongest combat power among the demon clan. Its physical body is no less than the power demons, its speed is no less than the shadow demons, and the most abnormal thing is that the celestial demon is completely immune to mental attacks. Its overall strength is the most terrifying among all demon clans. Human clan powerhouses of the same level are like children in front of them. The celestial demon can directly slaughter human clan powerhouses of the same level. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.